In this episode of We Do a Little, we are joined by friends of the show, Dave Krugman and Redbeard. Dave is an incredible photographer and the founder of ALLSHIPS, which is a large creative community doing dope shit in the space. Redbeard is a teacher, collector, investor, shitposter, and everything else in between. We get into hot takes on open editions, tips for brands thinking about getting into NFTs, thoughts on collector-led platforms, truth bombs about betting on cultural shifts early, and so much more. As always, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. And EDs and guests may own NFTs discussed.
This is Andy.
Yeah, I'm Bruce.
Gem, everybody, we are back with another episode of We Do a Little. We're in season 2, and we are with two guests that we've had on the pod individually, but now we are joining them together. We are with Dave Krugman and Redbeard, or Benny. We've gotten so much good feedback from both episodes that we did with you individually, and we know you guys are great friends, so we figured what better way to bring you together than let's talk on the pod in season 2. So,
we do a little more.
Yeah, we do a little more.
I really don't know why people liked my episode.
People loved it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
So
yeah, I have no idea. Yeah.
I don't know.
My favorite thing was Redbeard's wife watched the episode.
Yes.
And she told him how good it was. And that he had to listen to it.
She forced me to listen to it.
Yeah. I don't know why it's hard to listen to ourselves.
I don't like to listen to myself.
I haven't listened to any of the podcasts.
I listen to all of them because I do all the show notes. And I actually really like re-listening to them now that I've done it a few times because it lets me revisit the conversation from like a third-party view. I'm not like in it, but I'm now outside of it. And I'm looking at the themes and the flow of the conversation. And it's nice now that I've done it enough, but the first few times are really weird because when you hear yourself talk, you're like, that's how I sound?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Well, I listened to Dave's episod. I thought it was great.
Oh, thanks, man.
Just so you know.
That's enough for me. I don't need to go back and listen to it.
I feel like the Mattel clip was just like so much alpha. I've talked to a few artists who you've changed their perspective on editions and bigger editions and kind of opening up their collector base because I know a few artists who were focused on 101s, focused on being exclusive, and the bear market happens. And you realize, like, there's not that many 101 collectors, especially buying art 5+ ETH a piece. Yeah. But there are a ton of smaller collectors and artist collectors who want to support their friends and awesome artists in the space at a price point of, say, like 0.1 or less ETH.
Right. And
it's been cool to kind of see some shift in that since we talked, because when we talked, I felt like editions really hadn't started getting crazy. We talked in September.
Right. Yeah.
And, like, the last 3 months have just been, like...
exploded.
The manifold season, which is awesome. It's interesting too. I wonder how much of, in the first few years of NFTs, everyone's looking to traditional art and like what's worked in the past and being like, this is how it has to be. Like, this is scarcity. This is how you control supply. Don't over mint, blah, blah, blah. And then part of me is like, maybe it's just a new paradigm. Maybe it's just like a hyper fast market with a lot more participants and much more fluidity. And maybe some of those rules are going to change and evolve. And I think we're in the fuck around era.
Yeah, we're definitely
we're about to find out.
We're about to find out because, I mean, open editions with like 8,000 mints are happening like every day. Mm-hmm. And for those of us that lived through the Nifty Gateway open edition, like crash.
Tough times out there.
It was brutal, and like a lot of people got really, really burned, and some of the artists that participated in that never really recovered or kind of just disappeared.
Yeah.
Shout out Grimes.
She'll be back next bull run.
Yeah, next bull run she'll be
I think it's like an interesting conversation to have, basically, of like what are like the things that we are currently doing in NFTs that are still just like purely driven by what we took from traditional markets that like have different limitations, both like technically and sociologically and all of that we like don't have to be stuck in. And I think we saw this a lot with DeFi as well, where like for the longest time everyone is trading on these like order books and all these like really shitty decentralized order books that don't really work. And then all of a sudden there's like this 0 to 1 moment of like Uniswap and Uniswap happening and working that like no one really expected, and it wasn't, you couldn't really perfectly relate it back to a traditional finance thing. And I think we will continue to see that with NFTs as well, where it's like we have these traditional things. I think it's slightly different. It's like one of ones aren't going away by any means, in the same way that like order books have kind of like gone away in DeFi. But we will see, I think, different experimental things that just you couldn't possibly do in the traditional art world that you can do.
No, I mean, the idea of an open edition never even existed ever, right? But, editions...
The open print editions?
No.
There were. Yeah.
Well,
they
were, but...
prints, yeah.
Exactly. They were prints. So prints were open editions. Editions, I mean... Dolly was the edition master, right? I mean, like, he knew that was money to be made. That, you know...
He agrees.
He agrees.
Yeah.
Dolly.
But, like... Right, I mean, from a traditional art, he understood that there was a monetary sort of gain there, and he was like king of that. Like, and right now, you know, you have a Dolly edition, which is awesome. Most people who have editions from Dolly, like they don't really sell them. Like it's like for you to have because you could say I have a Dolly that's either signed usually or something like that.
I'm going to need one of those.
One of those.
That sounds amazing. What I wonder too is how does it change a market to have a always on, you know, interconnected social layer on top of it.
Yeah.
And I think that what that means is, you know, there's every day is an art event. They're like you could open up Twitter right now and there's like 60 new drops happening today, right?
It's impossible to keep up with.
Yes, it's so hard.
And I think that in the traditional world, like it was much more segmented, and you had to be in the know, or you had to be in a specific group of, you know, maybe people that collect a certain
or
type of work
at a location at an event.
Yeah. And now because it's this always on gallery in your pocket, maybe that means that there's a lot more room for abundance and a lot, you know, more flexibility with scarcity.
Yeah.
I know that as when I first entered the space, I was treating it very much like the traditional art world, and I was like, I'm going to mint like very few things on super rare, and like, you know, 33 bought one of my Genesis, he bought my Genesis super rare piece, and
you're just really going to say that and not say that I bought your first piece? Just like totally skip over that. You're like I understand that 33 is important.
Super rare piece.
Okay, first of all, I bought your second one, and I bought your literally me and Ian Zanzibar. We bought your first piece.
Okay, let me correct for the record here.
God, unbelievable.
Benny and Redbeard.
I am Benny and Redbeard.
Yeah.
Both of his personalities.
The Guppy crew.
That's right.
Bought and has held
For provenance. I want to make sure we say this.
My absolute genesis
Thank you.
work on the blockchain from November 2020.
Yes.
High resolution film scans from my grandfather's Hasselblad.
Where was that minted?
On Block
Party.
Nice.
On
Shout out Vlad.
Shout out Vlad Ginsburg, the king. Anyway, my point being is that, you know, first I get a few pieces into the hands of esteemed collectors like Redbeard, NFT, and Guppy. But it's not really until you have
and then you get a real collector like 33.
But the thing is that I'm trying to get to here is that, you know, if I sell 5 one-of-ones, I have 5 advocates for my work that are gonna, you know, support me and help me and get the word out. But it wasn't until I dropped Drive that all of a sudden I had like 92 unique holders that were hyper interested in my success as an artist. Yeah. And then my one-of-one started moving more, and like because as your community grows, it becomes much easier to move the needle. And I think that's really important. I just think that there is a chance that you can go too far. Yeah. Because if you do a week-long open edition for, you know, 0.05 and every single person who's ever wanted your work gets an opportunity to buy it, you've satisfied all your demand in one fell swoop. And I just worry that some artists, you know, need to, you know, artists can do whatever they want, first of all.
I made something up the other day.
Oh, yeah? What'd you make up?
I didn't even know what it meant, but I tweeted it and everybody wanted to know what I was talking about.
Well, let's tell them
I said,
now.
instead of going from open editions, we're going to go to curated editions. It sounded like it meant something. But now that you're talking, I think that I know what I was talking about.
Okay, so can you elaborate for the audience?
Here's my thought process. I agree with everything you're saying. I think the open editions, you could go too far sometimes, right?
Yeah. And as my first collector, I really value your...
Thank you. But I'm thinking a curated edition is sort of like you're saying, I think if artists do it with certain intent, and that doesn't mean that it has to have like whatever, you burn, even a burn. There just has to be some kind of purpose of understanding of maybe like a fluid sort of collection in editions or something. Not just like, hey, I'm dropping and buy as many as you can, which I'm not saying doesn't work, but like you said, that's a nifty gateway. When it first started, we had that like small, I don't know if you remember, we had like small run of like editions and everybody was going crazy. And like you said, they were just,
it started for me with the Beeple drop.
Yeah.
December, no, Politics is Bullshit, right around the election in 2020.
Yeah.
Beeple put out the Politics is Bullshit edition, and then he put out the changing piece that would go. And then 2 months later, he put out those open editions. It was Into the Ether.
Yep.
Bull Run and the Pikachu that was infected, I think it's called, or something. And that was the first time I saw an open edition.
Right.
I bought one for like $500, and 2 weeks later it was worth $4,000.
Yeah,
I was like,
editions are like blowing up.
I need to sell this. Yeah. I'm like at home, I'm on vacation visiting my in-laws, and I'm like, this just paid for like our next 3 trips to visit our in-laws. Yeah. And then little did I know that edition would go to be worth like $100,000+ in the next 2 months. But it was like starting the open edition craze. And then that January through March was just like every fucking night, Monday through Friday, there was a new open edition.
I was buying one every night.
It was nuts.
But I think something that you said on our previous pod, Dave, was really good. And you're talking about kind of slowly expanding your collection over time to match the demand of your audience.
Right.
And I think like that's something that's really important there. And there's something else that like I think it was someone from A16Z said about like basically that in Web3 and crypto, one of the interesting things is like you don't necessarily need a lot of traditional marketing because the token is the marketing, and you're able to build this connected group of people who are all very, like you were saying, super aligned with what you're doing and what you want to be doing.
Right.
And so as you are able to expand your collector base, you now have a bunch of advocates who are going to talk about your work.
Dave, I don't know if you talked about this in the podcast, I don't remember, but Dave talks a lot about how Web2 promised us to be sort of, they made all these promises to us as, individuals, and it ended up being more really consumer market. Now it's a creator's market. You talk a lot about Web3 being that creator market because you can make that connection straight to your consumer rather than it's like, right, you talk a lot about like big businesses kind of took that over. So there was never like the direct connection from the creator to the consumer.
Right. Well, yeah. So I think what happened was basically I view Web3 as like it's like built on the substrate of Web2.
Right.
But what it is it's a kind of your root identity layer as an artist. And what that does is it makes social media just your communications layer and not your identity layer. And I think that's really, really important. Because if social media is your identity layer, you're like automatically self-censoring because you don't want to lose your online identity.
Yeah. You're just like renting all of the
and like, if you don't please the algorithm, like the back of my hoodie says resist the algorithms. If you don't please the algorithm or like play by those specific rules.
Does the back of my shirt say that?
No, yours says all ships rise with the tide.
Okay, sorry.
But if you don't, like, you have to be very careful if your core identity is something you're renting from Meta.
Yeah.
But what I like about NFTs is like, if you have one of my pieces in your wallet and like everything is on chain and like we can see this kind of like hyperstructure of interconnected tokens, that actually is my core like online DNA.
Yeah.
And it frees me up on social media to be like much more irreverent and just like having a blast.
Kind of like the mycelium network.
Yeah, well, we don't have to dive all the way back into that. I don't want to repeat myself endlessly. But
well, and I think then like the next kind of challenge that artists and kind of people who are making a living with some level of influence online in any way will have is basically instead of not wanting your identity to be like owned by a particular like Web2 platform or things, is like not wanting to have your identity be tied into any particular narrative because like the narratives can shift so fast. And so that's something I think will be interesting too. Is you see different like artists and creators kind of rise and fall with the tides of like what's popular and what's interesting, and then you see other creators who their work kind of is much more so like standing the test of time because it's not just like, oh, I decided in the middle of like crazy open edition burn mechanics to do a thing and like no one actually liked my artwork. Right. They just like
they
wanted to they wanted to like
Can
play
I just say
game.
something in the middle? I know that this
Absolutely.
is off topic. When I look at Andy, He really pulls off this mustache. Okay, can we talk about this for a second?
Good.
Right?
I mean, last season I had the stash. If you remember,
but like Andy, really, like it looks good on him.
Oh, it looks perfect.
Like you could either. And by the way, can you do like a fake English accent for a second?
I totally cannot.
Oh, because you would be like, he looks like he'd be like an English rocker.
Really?
Yeah.
What, like a lead
from,
singer? Or
yeah, like from Queen.
I'm getting more.
Right?
Okay.
See what
Honestly,
I'm saying? And he just pulls it off so well. Like you talk to me, like it's a good mustache.
I'm getting more of like a very like salt of the earth, like fire chief.
Ooh, yes.
That is
now
just
that you say that, like he's
comes home covered in soot.
So he's like, his wife's like, oh, had a long
like
day.
Takes his helmet off and
Put it down. His kids come hug him and they're like, they're going to sleep, but he stayed up to save people.
Yeah.
In order not to
That's
be with
me.
the
What can I say?
That's
that's all in a day's work.
Exactly. He just does that with NFTs and J.
We'll have to ask Allie. I think that's why she's so attracted to you.
100%. But it's
do
funny.
You have a fireman outfit for Allie? I mean, you.
I do not, but maybe next Halloween. Right? Yeah.
That's a good present.
Well, with all these burn mechanics.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
Someone needs to put out the fire.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I like for the longest time. So I can't really grow great facial hair for the most part. Like it's pretty patchy. It takes a long time. It doesn't fill in very much. And so like for a while, I wanted to try having a mustache, and I just couldn't like. I could never get to the point where it had grown out enough that I could shave the rest of my facial hair.
Yeah.
And it didn't look like I had like a weird pedo stash thing going on. And so then like I tried it a few times and every single time I was like, I just look like I shouldn't be allowed near a high school.
Yeah.
And then when COVID started, I just was like really lazy and hadn't shaved for a while. And it was like starting to actually get long. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. This is the time. I haven't seen anyone in months. I'm not going to see anyone for a while. And I shaved it and I was like, oh, mate, it actually doesn't look too bad. And at first, Allie didn't like it. I remember, like, she would just know me first since I was in middle school. It was like, dude, you got to shave that. Like, it's not good. But I feel like people have grown.
No, I really like it. But I will tell you this. There's one thing, okay? I know, you and Allie are starting your lives and all that. And you're probably, hopefully, soon going to have children. My dad has a mustache. And one day I saw my dad without a mustache. And it was, I almost like, I didn't know what to do with myself.
If your kids,
dude,
I was beside the pictures.
I was freaked out, dude. Like my dad, like shaved it, I guess, or shaved it down till like couldn't see that much, and I was like, I was devastated. I was like I thought my mom got a new dad. Like I didn't know what was going on. So I'm just saying, give fair warning to your children.
Yeah,
when you have children.
Well, one day I'm just gonna surprise Allie and wake up and shave my mustache, and she's gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
See, if I did that with my beard, I feel like my wife would just leave me at this point.
How long is that beard taken? Like, what is this?
This beard. So I don't know. I don't even know what year it is. I'm so lost.
2023,
right?
We're January.
How many years ago was COVID now?
It's 3.
Okay, so
which is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that the other day, and I was like, no, it's been 2 years, right? No. Shit, no.
That's the one thing I kind of do regret is not knowing Dave during COVID. I feel like we would have had a really good time during COVID.
Was New York City pretty dead during COVID?
So
not like when we were like in COVID.
So New York City during
like
COVID was really interesting.
Yeah, Columbus was dead.
2021.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's when I met. Like that's when I really met you.
Yeah.
Were you guys in the city during like
I was in my
COVID?
house in Long Island. It was the best thing ever. I stayed in my house for like
I was when it hit. I was in Kyoto, Japan.
Oh yeah,
on a campaign for 4 seasons, and I just every morning in the hotel room, like they'd bring me the New York Times, and like everything was going down in Italy, and I was just every day it was getting worse, and I was like, this is not going to be good because I knew like if this is happening in Italy right now, it's going to happen in New York, and like.
So were you able to get back to America?
Yeah, I was literally on a flight alone.
Yeah. That was how it was for me as well.
From Kyoto to New York.
You were the only person on the plane?
Yeah, and I flew back into New York on the 18th of March.
Can we talk about it for a second? When you were on the plane all by yourself, because I just had this conversation randomly with somebody else who was on a plane alone. He's actually with one other person. Tell me if you think this is weird. He was on the plane with one other person, and he ended up sitting next to that person.
Like the whole plane?
No.
That's
okay, it was a short ride. It was only 2.5 hours.
Doesn't matter. That's like we go in the bathroom. There's 15 open stalls.
Right.
There is one person
I would
pissing
sit in every
the corner,
seat. Yeah.
and then I just go right next to him.
Yeah, that's not
right.
Weird.
Yeah. So yeah, I had a similar experience. So Allie was living in London at the time because she was doing like work abroad for KPMG, and I was visiting her, and I like was supposed to fly back, I think on like March 16th or 17th, and it's all like kind of happening. I was I was playing a lot of daily fantasy basketball all the time, so I was staying up late and watching basketball in London.
Oh.
And I was watching the Jazz Thunder game where they canceled the game before it started because one of the players tested positive. And that was where I was like, oh shit, like I hope I can get back to America.
Right.
And so then like I flew back the day I was supposed to, but it was like I was like the only person in JFK.
Yeah.
It was really weird. And then I was on the Upper East Side for like basically all of the really bad like lockdown period, but it was really, really interesting. Like I actually thought it was kind of a cool experience, but I'm very much like an optimist in life. So to be like, oh, this is kind of cool. I don't know. Outside of like everyone getting really sick, but it was like completely dead. No cars on the road. You could just like walk down the middle of the street in the middle of the day and there was no one around. And then like slowly as the city started to open back up, it kind of felt like only the real ones were still there. Yeah, and so you're like walking around in June and July and you could like get drinks to go. Everyone's like outside drinking, eating. And like it was this really weird like block party almost kind of experience. A bunch of people who had all been like stuck inside for a long time who were out doing stuff. And it was like, I mean, obviously the circumstances were very shitty, but it was one of those things where I'm kind of glad that I got to experience it because odds are in our lifetime we'll never have something similar.
I don't think they'll ever. It'll be very hard for them to shut down like that again. I mean, also the other thing is that I think that the kids were not. They didn't know if kids were going to get sick. If kids get sick, by the way, just letting you know, all bets were off. Like, shit would have hit the fan way worse. Like that was, I think, because they weren't sure if kids were going to get sick, and once they realized kids weren't really kind of getting sick from it, this is not like don't post any whatever. Like I'm not saying kids don't get sick from COVID. Relax, okay? I'm just saying in general, it hits people who are older, okay? But once we realized that, I think that changed everything. But I was upset because COVID. My mother-in-law got COVID. And she survived. And they kept telling me that the mortality rate...
We got to just clip that. I was upset because
was like so bad. And then my mother-in-law got it. And the worst part about it, not only did she survive COVID, okay?
She's living in the house now.
She did. She moved into my house.
This motherfucker.
So I'll tell you what happened. She had to sell her house because they were moving abroad, okay? And their house went through to the sale. So the first 2 months of COVID were great. I was home. I was enjoying myself. And then my wife's like, yo, listen, the house is still going up for sale. And they couldn't move abroad because no one was allowed to go anywhere. So my wife's like, they're going to have to move in. I was like, well, they're not going to have to move in. She's like, where are they going to go? I was like, I don't know. What do you want me to tell you? And they ended up moving in. And crazy story, like... I had to like call people that were in the ambassador's office in this other country where they were going, and just to help me get them on like the next plane out that I could get them.
You're like, I can't do this,
dude. But I did it, then actually the guy who helped me set it all up, I named my son after him. Arlo's middle name is after this guy's name, helping
so he's basically your savior because
I tell him all the
time you could
time.
still be living with your mother-in-law now.
They would be in my house, so he saved my life. That's totally off the top.
One interesting thing I think in terms of talking about the bright side of that whole experience is I think we fast forwarded like 5 years into digital assets because two things happened. One was that everyone was super starved of social experiences, and apps like Clubhouse came out, and all of a sudden, like everyone who was just dying to like talk to a human being we're all congregating on these spaces, like around these little campfires of ideas. And also because we were forced to spend so much time in digital spaces only, a lot of us realized how important it was to have digital objects. And like I think that's really an essential thing that happened. And I think that's what kicked off that first huge bull run was because there's just no way there's any other circumstance under which we could have that concentration of attention on digital social spheres.
It was a perfect storm.
People were also getting some money.
Yeah, I was going to say, they got free money. The cycle was right at the peak, like in the second year of the 4-year cycle. It was like perfect. Interest rates was low. It was like just a perfect timing. But it's funny you say that because from an educational standpoint, you can't be more wrong, right? The fascinating thing is when they put all these schools online, everybody's like, oh, this is not working, it's not working. Well, for two reasons. Number one is because the infrastructure wasn't even close to being built for that. Yeah. While in the corporate world, they were kind of ready because a lot of them were already working at home. But in the educational world, because they're so behind all the time, they weren't built for it. Yeah. So most schools are like, I don't know what to do. The second thing is that the truth is that it could have worked or could work, but it really wasn't the kids because they were able to understand how this all worked. It was the teachers and the parents
that
couldn't understand how this works. The kids are sitting there. I mean, I witnessed it in my own school. Like kids were like, some of the kids like thrived on it, right? Like you could tell, like once we hit, really good, like, stream of it, like they were really like hitting it really well. And like, cause they got it. They're like, oh, I could do this. And fascinating. Like you watch some high school kids, they would be like, well, I could work less doing it on my own and be really successful while remoting in. So it is interesting because it kind of forced, the whole education system to be like, okay, what do we do
I
now?
learned that with my brother. My brother's a teenager, and I was tutoring him basically through COVID because he was doing online classes.
Yeah.
And he went to he's going to a public school at the time in my hometown that I went to. And the teachers are like taking the Word docs that they've had for 20 years, converting it into a Google Doc with like underscores as blank spaces and expecting my brother to like go in, delete all the blank spaces. And
they
like,
didn't know how to, it's true. They didn't know how to edit.
Like, it's like, I looked at him and I'm like, dude, like, I'm so sorry you have to do this. Like, I helped him go through it all. And he eventually pivoted to 100% online school that was actually built around teaching people online and not the public school that was just kind of like flailing in the transition.
And I think it was hard for parents too. Like my mom is a young school teacher. She, through COVID, she's taught a couple different ages, but I think she taught 3rd and 4th grade. And like the amount of stories she's told me of parents who just like have really, really made it hard for their kids.
I tell you, you know how many times I had to like, and I get it. Like, the parents would call me like, say, how do I sign into Google again? Like, and you don't realize that in what we do, and not our age, but like in the world we're digital natives, right? But a lot of people that are around our age are not digital natives. Kids that are younger than us, like my children and children you're all going to have, but you'll see they're born digital natives. That's like a totally different world, because like they come out like, now they got past generation X, Y, and Z. I think they call it like the swipe generation now. Like they just like kind of gave up, or it's like Z and X or whatever it is. But a lot of times most people just call it swipe generation because essentially they come out.
Generation swipe.
Generation swipe. It's
Swipers.
That's
is like
great,
a Dora
right?
the Explorer
That's actually
show.
really good. I like
you should
that.
write that book, dude.
I'm going to write that book right now.
Write that. Guys, we'll be right back.
Right. No, it's
Swiping.
done. It's already
He's
done.
gonna write a fucking book.
It's too late. I gave to ChatGPT. It wrote the book for me. Finish.
But yeah, my mom, she was saying now that they're back in the classroom, the amount of kids who need extra help and who need more attention are like 2 or 3x. And just basically like a lot of the kids are fine, they're back to normal, but like the amount of kids who like had problems, they were like super exacerbated while they were at home, and now they just like don't know how to interact with other kids. And she has like kids who just like had really bad home lives, living at home that whole time, who like it was
I feel like I don't
just
know
really
how to
unsafe
interact with other people still.
Yeah.
COVID did a number on me.
It really is crazy. My daughter, it's the craziest story. She came home on the bus, and every day would tell me the bus driver hates her. Swear to God. Now, Ruby. She's like 8 going on 17, but whatever. So I used to not listen to her. She used to say, he doesn't like me. And then they decided that they could take the masks off. And she sees him without a mask. And she comes home. She goes, I didn't know my bus driver could smile.
Right.
But she could never see his face, so she didn't know. He didn't hate her.
No, but the mask makes it so impersonal.
It makes it so impersonal. You just see their eyes, so you don't know. So my daughter's sitting there, and she's like, I don't know what he looks like. You know,
you got all these kids in schools with masks on, and it's like
it's really crazy. Your mom is right. Like people didn't realize, and again, I'm not saying whether or not we should have masks, but for kids, it was really detrimental. It's hurt a lot. Like kids are behind. They're trying to figure stuff out still. When your brain is being built from the ages of, let's say, 3 to 18, right? That's why they say, kids under 18 should not be smoking pot, right? Because it definitely affects your brain.
Probably shouldn't smoke until you're 25.
Right.
Like 25 is when
they've screwed.
I don't know, man. I think it's okay.
I mean, there's definitely exceptions to the rule. Like I get people who tag me. I think Shillin Villain tweets every day, "Can you smoke weed and be successful in NFTs?" And people tag me every time, and I'm like, I would probably maybe be more successful if I didn't smoke so much.
Know,
I don't know about that.
I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where I don't think it is the primary contributor to my success. And I don't ever want to be a role model. Like my brother right now, if you're watching this, please put your fucking vape pen down, dude. Like he's fucking a teenager. He sees me posting GMs of dabs and whatever, and then like I look at his bio, he's copying my bio, like smoking shitty vapes from fucking China, and I'm just like, dude, number one, I never smoked weed until I was 20. I was scared of it. I thought weed was heroin because I grew up in the Midwest, and I'm like, oh, this is all the same.
Gateway drug.
Yeah,
this is all the Schedule 1 shit. Like, gotta be the same.
Wait,
like,
don't they do
I
a
love
lot
that you
of...
were looking at the schedule, the schedule
That's what they
classification.
teach you in health class, dude.
I know.
Like, they send you down.
Did you have DARE? I had DARE class.
with DARE,
yeah.
and then we have the food pyramid. Like, they're like, yeah, eat a bunch of bread and carbs, and like eat just a little bit of meat, and like. No, like, what the fuck are we teaching kids?
But also, sex education was so terrible.
Yeah, we're talking about high school. Do you know the king of middle school is sitting with us right here, right now? Dave.
the king of middle school.
I wrote a song about me when we were hanging out with Ollie Channon playing guitar in a hot tub.
And it's about Dave being the king of middle school. I don't know if you know this. He's literally... There has never been anybody who I've heard stories about middle school specifically that are so epic. It's like, did you live this life in college? He's like, no, when I was 12. Take that, put that in your pipe and smoke it. People live these lives like
Benny,
he lived when they were like 25. Dave's like, yeah, I lived that when I was 14. Crazy stuff, man. So
Look, it's been a long and winding road, and Benny is when he starts to sing, he likes to embellish like a bard of old. And if you've never heard Benny sing, I think there should be an opportunity in the future.
Maybe we can get a clip
where we get Ollie to come. He'll play guitar or piano, and then Benny will just freestyle lyrics because you wouldn't believe.
Is Benny just all freestyle? Like, is it?
He freestyle, but not. I can rap freestyle.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if
Dave's
you
a
know
great
this.
rapper. We should get that
Yeah.
today. We should have that.
Maybe I'll do a little poem for you guys. But
about
Benny does it, but like lyrically.
yeah.
He's just like kind of crooning.
Like you know, like those, like there's like a little like red bearded elf, magically that would sing with one of those
like
guitars.
I just imagine
I'm just picturing
like
you again.
A lawn gnome coming to
Yeah,
life.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
like picking up the microphone.
Lawn Gnome coming to life.
No,
Like,
it's my songs are.
we have one right here.
I feel like my songs. I sing a lot with my kids at home, so when I sing with to Dave. I sang one to Monaris that I still remember.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful.
Can you
song.
actually just for the benefit of everyone listening, can you just say the word Paola?
Yeah, I don't know if you know Monaris, but her name is really Paola, and you have to say it just like that.
Paola.
No,
Paola.
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 Yeah.
Paola.
This is for Anonymous X. Paola.
Anonymous.
Yeah.
What does he call her?
This is for NorCal. Paola. Monaris is the best.
Yeah,
I can't wait for you guys to get her on.
We're determined. So every time that we book a studio,
I know
she's top of my list.
She's always busy.
Ever. And it'll be like, hey, we're gonna be in town from January 16th to the 23rd.
No,
and she'll be like,
she's-
oh my god, I'm gonna be out of town from January 15th to the 24th.
Yeah.
She's like, fuck.
She's away a lot. She's traveling, but also like she does like these crazy shoots for movies and stuff. I mean, also like, but her art is. I mean, I know, and I love Dave's photographer, so I could say that here. But like her photography, I think is some of my favorite by far. I mean, I think that she just.
I think it's definitely the best I've seen.
Yeah,
Me
not
too.
as good as Dave.
Me too. I bought her.
But Dave, I know Dave.
I bought her Genesis.
I know Dave loves her, and he bought her Genesis.
I did.
And then I bought
Her real Genesis or her super rare Genesis?
Her super rare Genesis.
No, that was her first 1-to-1.
It was her first one-of-one.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, she didn't do any on.
Paola, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. I'm almost positive she didn't do any on Foundation. That is her first 1-to-1.
I feel like she might have done more.
No, she did the series.
Okay.
A
So,
1-to-1?
Yeah, I think that had to
For
precede
real?
the super rare piece.
Fuck.
I'll show you later.
Yeah.
How many 1-to-1s does she have over there?
I don't know, but I saw one and I was like, I want it.
Fuck. That's it. I give it.
Yeah.
We'll make a deal later. You can sell it.
Yeah. We'll talk.
We'll talk.
Just send it to DaveKrugman.eth and I'll take a look.
Got
I'll
these.
just take a look.
I bought the second, and then I bought the fourth or fifth. I don't remember which one I bought after.
Only have one of my super rares though. That's weird.
Well, it's because he has so many from Block Party.
Exactly. And I own like
Honestly, wait.
I own like 7 cars and
Yeah.
25 drips.
I wish you owned 7 cars because that might benefit you on my next drop.
Oh.
But you don't. You have.
He's
2
checked
or
the
3.
chain.
No, I have 4.
Oh, because you bought a Grail.
Yeah.
Ooh, did you
you're-
buy
you're the money,
recent-
baby.
The
Let's do
dip?
it.
Did he buy the dip?
No, but Punk 5
Yes.
629 did.
Bought that one. Yeah.
But 2, right?
Yeah.
888.
6529, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, 6, did I?
You said 5629.
I knew it.
I knew what you meant.
I don't know
but
what I'm talking about.
I just wanted to make sure that
There's
I
like-
knew there wasn't like some other punk guy who's also
Punk 29.
like.
Sir, I'm sorry. I love you. You're an
It's
icon.
tough. You shouldn't make your brand a serial number. It's really hard.
I'm actually like, I don't think I have dyslexia, but I'm like, with numbers, I'm just like, I just jumble it and I'm like, it just all gets mixed together.
It
But
took me
you
a
all know
long-
who I'm talking about.
It took me a long time to get the 6529 in my head,
Yeah.
like permanently.
I just-
6529,
I just say
6529.
Punk or I say Batsuit Beyond.
Did you hear me hesitate? I was like, Punk 6, and then I just said a bunch of numbers.
yeah, you know.
Anyway,
guy.
that he bought 2 more. He bought one off Brendan North on like day 2, and then he bought 2 more in this little dip. Right, before, it was like people were trying to harvest for tax losses.
Shout
I
out
think.
to 888.
888.
Yeah.
Well, then somebody just bought
Lumber
the
Liquidators.
somebody just bought the Grail of the whole collection for 4 ETH, and I'm like stoked because that
was the 888 one.
That was 888s, right?
Yeah.
yeah that was 888s, but 888 still has 1 or 2.
I mean,
Keep his wallet on
shout out to all the divorces that these guys are going through now,
Oh,
right?
man.
Woo! You know. By the way, the divorce thing, I thought it would be out. It would be played out after 2017.
Yeah,
because that's what they all were saying. Like, oh yeah, I'm going through a divorce. I got to liquidate all my coins. Sorry, guys.
But we had a
like, I'm
whole-
your friend, but my wife says I need half the money. And then you find out like they're not. None of them are married.
They were never married. They were
Like,
just
yeah.
fucking hookers.
They were
the
just
whole time.
It was like a hooker that or a secretary.
They just need an excuse to
Yeah,
sell.
it's always
and
like that.
I'm sorry, I missed this whole era.
Oh,
yeah.
you do.
I mean,
Like, all
how
the
do people
time.
not realize that if you're going through a divorce, all
Yeah.
you do is you throw your NFTs onto Tessera.
Exactly right.
And then
Exactly.
you give half to
Give
your
half,
wife.
half to your wife. There you go. I mean, it just that I thought that excuse played out. But
I
I'm glad.
actually have a topic I wanted to bring up today.
Let's go.
Okay.
What do you guys think? And I'm not coming at this with any opinion. Just want to hear what you guys think.
That's a lie. But
I swear. I actually think part of it's really fascinating, and then part of it might be like kind of weird. But I feel like so many collectors are kind of like forming these, I don't know, platforms or businesses, and they're incorporating. They're almost like incorporating artists, and I don't know what arrangements they've made, whether it's equity or like there's some sort of like profit sharing happening.
So yeah,
So like, there's so many examples of this. I'm not going to call out any specifically.
I'll call it a couple when I get to it.
Okay. So what are the thoughts? Because again, like if we're talking about the transition from traditional art markets, traditional collecting, there's never been a time where artists and collectors are so intertwined in their what's the word? Incentives, I guess. And I see how this can be extremely beneficial for the market, but I also see how there's so much conflict of interest and like just internal like things to think about like moral issues and stuff like that and power dynamics and stuff like that.
I think that's such a good question. You deserve a Pez.
Benny, thank you. But,
Wow.
I
didn't know we were getting rewards.
Bring Pez. Bring a fucking Pez dispenser, bro.
I know.
That's the best part of it.
Yeah, imagine you just opened up a little Tweety bird.
To
And
just go and buy the packs of Pez
that's
without
exactly
the
what I-
dispenser.
I know, but I
like
get
the
a
12
dispenser,
pack.
dude.
I buy the 12 packs.
Instead of buying
Yeah.
the
Alien
4
has
pack.
some. Well, he'll
right.
save one for you.
well, yeah, we'll buy you some Pez dispensers.
So, yeah, a couple things that come to mind on what you just said. I'll name
I
a
deserve
couple
two.
platforms.
They're so good.
The big platform that hasn't come out yet that I see being built is Babylon
Yeah.
by P Azuro.
Yeah.
And then another platform that I see very similar to this is AOTM by BBD and GigaChat.
Yeah.
And for me, it's this fine balance because, we may or may not be working on...
we can talk about it. By the time we release this,
Yeah,
it'll
so,
probably
like,
be
we
a
are
little
also-
later.
Escher will be out by then.
working
Yeah.
on a curated editions platform.
Okay, cool.
And I don't want it to be the vibe of, oh, these are just people D's collected from.
Yeah.
Like, which is the vibe of AOTM and Babylon. Babylon is like, I saw Pio Zero come in the last, not even year,
Yeah.
6 months. He bought Kalish's 3D hoodie punk for 400 some ETH. Fits in. Picked up a lot of 101 art that was very expensive, very fast, and like within 6 months is releasing a platform.
Yeah.
Right.
That feels to me almost an order of magnitude different than the VVD platform.
I agree.
Because VVD is someone we've been watching for a couple years now. He came in through Starry Night, He's curated the Rare Pepe Season 8.
And those are awesome. He's done a great job.
Yeah, he's done a great job with the community.
And I feel like he's done it from more of like more from his heart. If I don't know Piazero, and I don't want to like say this in a bad way, but like the way I've seen VVD come at it, I feel like has been like, oh, he's been slowly building up toward this, and it wasn't like I look at Piazero as someone, I'm like, did you just come in the space to buy all this stuff to make a platform? It's very similar to how I look at Deepak from Chain. It's like, were you just buying expensive shit to like pimp out your product, or are you actually here for the culture? And it's tough to find the truth, because I don't really know, but it feels weird as a collector. And like the thing about Babylon that feels weirder to me is that, from my understanding of it, all the editions you buy, you have a chance to win a 101. So it's like, am I buying this because I want to win a 101, or am I buying this because I like the art? It's like,
you guys are gonna get me in so much trouble. Sam Spratt just told me I needed to not talk about these things. Like, it's so I go on rants about these.
It's okay.
things.
We're here to rant.
I mean,
it's from a place. So like, letting everybody know, like, these are rants that come from like the heart.
So here's the thing.
In a good place.
Right. So I very heavily agree with you on the VVD thing. I wasn't so sure, to be honest with you, from the beginning about the AOTM thing. Honestly, I wasn't so sold either on a very similar thing to the meme card and to the Noble card thing, which I've recently got on board for both of them. And the reason why I got on board for both of them and the AOTM thing is because I very much agree with what you're saying. I spoke to each one of those people, like, obviously we know who's behind meme cards and Bat, and who I can never say enough good things about.
He's the man. He's awesome.
He's a legend and just an exceptional human being. And I got to know Artie and realized the amount of love that he's actually putting into Noble cards, and that really is exciting for me as somebody who loves the space and art. And really getting to know VVD and really seeing, like, look, VVD's like, they really want to make a curated platform, but that's not just a platform for us. Like, his vision is very much, what Dave talks about all the time about, like, we can't just keep our fine art with, the 12 people that are collecting. We need these other people. And I know that, VVD feels very strongly with that, and he feels like if we do this correctly, and no offense to Super Rare, I think they started with that and they kind of lost their way, and now I think that they're not. It doesn't feel like it's curated, but I don't know what the answer is with them. And so, like, look, I think I personally have been asked to like Ian, myself, and Will, right, have been asked to do like I'm sure you have also, like, a pass or some kind of curated thing. And we all feel, and I really feel like very, Dave knows this. Like, I just hate this idea of asking people to owe you something, right? Because I think it's really dangerous. So, like, I think if you can do it and you're very good at it, like Artie, Punk 6529, Bat, and VVD, and you could really toe that very thin line, in my opinion, very well, and as professionals, I think it could be very highly successful. I have no problem with it. My concern is, where does this end? And then, and again, I don't know Piazaro, and again, this is not knocking him. I don't know him.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to be like, when artists ask me, should I join this? I'm like, I don't have an answer for you because I don't know what the end goal is. And I'm worried that there's going to be, like you said, somebody could come in and just be like, I'm going to spend $1 million and buy all these 1-to-1s, and then I say, hey, what's up? Like, I've never asked you for anything. I don't want to ask you for anything except drugs. But yeah, that's plenty of drugs. But you hear what I'm saying? Like, so I think it's really important, like, a message to artists. I've said to artists, like, just make sure that who you're working with cares about your art, right?
Yeah. And about you, and doesn't want to, like, I'm fortunate that I've never ever had a collector who is been like, well, because I collected your work, I'd really appreciate, like, I haven't even had a collector reach out and be like, can you retweet something? Yeah. But what that makes me do is, like, when I see something that I know needs some amplification, I'm like, oh, like, this person has supported me, I'm going to support them. Yeah. And I'd rather have symbioses than, like, business relationships.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I liked about AOTM
symbiosis, I like that word,
is the that like when it first came out, I was like, oh, this feels a little bit weird.
Agreed.
I don't totally get it. But again, after like reading more about it, and I spoke to BBD as well and like got more info, it was like they can still mint wherever they want. And like, so I basically had a call with him about Escher, and I was like, yeah, we're going to do this. Like, I'm definitely going to be reaching out to a bunch of artists who like you guys are working with. Like, is that cool? Don't want to step on anyone's toes. And he's like, yeah, they can do whatever the fuck they want with their art. And I was like, that's sick. Yeah, like, I really appreciate that.
I bought one of the first pieces there with D's. We bought an edition from Nude Yoga Girl, and the experience was great. And like, you know, it was very nice. And she reached out to us and you know, listen, at first I agree. I thought they were like, we're repping all these people. And I was like, oh my, like, you know, I was like, that's
the first one page document.
That first one page was
like, terrifying.
Oh, and I texted,
and then we start talking to the artist, and we're like, oh no, it's not like that.
No, it's not like that at all. And I asked Gig and Pep and Chad, I was like, are you repping all of them? He's like, no, it's not like that. And then I feel like getting to understand it and you know, being in some of their chats and stuff that they have for collectors now and what they're building. I really think AOTM actually has a large potential. I mean, it was also talking to people like, you know, Sam Spratt and Joe Pease and some other artists and I think they're going to expand and get other artists, like really good artists to join, get him up there. And, you know, like,
I would love to,
and like you, Monaris. I mean, there's just like some really. I think that they're doing things methodically, and I kind of like. I like that process.
So then, going back to the conversation explicitly about artists having equity and like kind of what that relationship looks like, I think my personal opinion on it is it's like a cool idea in theory to basically be like, how do we get artists so deeply aligned with like what we're building, and like the answer is we give them equity in this company that is doing stuff. Like, I think that is a cool idea. I think the execution of it's going to be really, really hard. Yeah. And it's also going to kind of end up where like, okay, so Babylon has 30 artists who have equity in this company now. Like,
it's a lot.
What about the other 30,
wait, just to be clear, are they doing that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So basically the way that it works is each of the founding artists is going to do one edition drop with this like raffle system. And all of the funds raised from it basically get like put into a pool, and you get like your pro rata share of equity of some unknown chunk of equity in the company.
Okay. And
so like basically
which platform?
It's called Babylon.
Oh, this is Babylon. Okay, we're not talking about Art of the New Millennium.
No. And so like I think it's an interesting idea. I think it like I think that there's like a bit of a conflict of interest there actually on the platform side of like, I don't know if it's the best thing for the platform long term to have like 30 artists who are these like shareholders of the thing, and then like what if just better artists come around but they're not treated as well because these 30 artists own I don't
also,
know.
Are they going to feel pressure? Like, what scares me a little bit about that, and I talking to a bunch of the artists was, and are they going to feel, and they say they're not, and hopefully it's not that way, but are they going to feel pressure that they have to drop there, which I don't think is really a good thing. Also, I don't love right now that people feel pressured that they have to be dropped on Super to be taken seriously, right?
Yeah.
There are people who it ruins their whole fucking mentality because they can't get on Super.
Because they can't get on Super. Like,
there's artists I know who've made wonderful work, who I've recommended to Super many times, and for whatever reason, one or another, they can't get on, and then they're just like, what do I do? And I'm like, keep making great art and fuck Super Rare, because in 5 years, I don't think Super Rare is going to matter.
As a matter of fact, Dave, you should speak about this. Vlad actually, shout out to him again, and Dave both said this to me a while back. I don't know if you remember that. 10 years from now, and I tweeted this, and I got a lot of likes. I did steal it from them. That your provenance is not where you minted, right? It's your ownership of the piece itself. Like, no one's going to be like, oh, that got minted on Super Rare, so therefore it's going to be more expensive. It's going to be like, oh, that's a Dave Krugman piece.
Right, yeah. I think that's true. And I also think... Look, when you have a nascent, like, new culture building up, like, yeah, there's these pillars that are like, oh, people love Super Rare because, like, that was the OG art platform.
Right.
But as the rest of the world catches up and gets onboarded, it's going to be a vast network of, like, these different ecosystems and communities. And, like, look what's happened with OpenSea and Blur, right? So it's like... Yeah. All of a sudden, like a month after Blur comes out, it had like more than half the total NFT volume. Yeah. So like we're in such a small space still that like the the long-term legacy is nowhere near being completed yet. And I would also say, when it comes to all these different platforms, I think the best attitude I've seen so far is probably from the team at Manifold, which is like I even asked, I was like, are you guys going to have a marketplace? Like, I would love to trade the art I'm buying on Manifold and like never have to go to OpenSea. Like, that would be really cool. And Richard was just like, the artist is the platform. Yeah. And I was like, damn, you're right. Like, the artist is the platform. And I mean, they've have this kind of ethos of like, you are the sovereign artist, and we want to help you for free get as close to that as humanly possible. And then that's all we're interested in. Yeah. And they're one of the few companies, I think, in the space that has truly backed their words with actions. And it's so exciting to see how many artists have been using Manifold contracts over the past 2 months. I mean, it's literally like just the year of Manifold.
I mean, is the future like 80% plus of people mint through Manifold and Transient, and then that's aggregated into a respective platform?
I think I don't know if it'll just be them. I'm sure.
Well, yeah, but like those types of like.
Well, I think what you'll see is a lot of sort of legacy brands start building into the Web3 space, right? Mm-hmm. And then they're going to go to people like Transient and Manifold and say, help us build, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like the answer is like, eventually, in 2 years, it's Manifold has been acquired by Christie's or right. I mean, maybe it's the other way around.
They built. By the way, and just that's very interesting because I saw some, that I don't know if I was allowed to say that. Let's take that out. I was going to say that Christie's and Sotheby's, I would not, sleep on them because I think what they're doing with their platforms is very smart. I mean, if you think about it, right, the small to medium gallery business is probably, I don't know, probably a few $1 billion at least as an industry in this world. So, if you think about this, it's so interesting because you keep talking about digital art renaissance, right, or revolution. That's all about disruption, right? We talk about this all the time. If you want to disrupt the art, community more than anything, trad art community, it's like everything else. It's like, how do we take out that small to medium sort of world, and then we could suck that money out of, which honestly, like with what I think Christie's and Sotheby's are doing and what we're kind of building here now, like, why would I need to go to if I'm an artist, I need to go to a smaller medium gallery where I'm going to take 30 to 40% anymore. And I could do it digitally on Sotheby's and Christie's. Like, they're taking this stuff very seriously.
Yeah. They're competing, too, which is really nice. It's like Christie's does something. I'm like, Christie's does something with Sam Spratt. Yeah. Then Sotheby's doing something with Fewell. Yeah. And then it's like they're always like, Sotheby's just did something with the Creche. And then the Creche
they're dipping their toes and they're taking their time, and which they can. And I think that's really smart of them. Like, I think that we're going to see a lot different.
Yeah. And I think, too, the other thing, like, I want to, like, preface, like, we're building Escher and I'm really excited about it, and like I don't think that means like I dislike Babylon or any of the other things. Like, my personal opinion is like it's such a small space right now, and it's all additive. Like any platform that is elevating like digital artwork and NFTs and all of that is like net positive for anyone who's building in that space.
I hope it's success. I hope Babylon, by the way, is successful.
Yeah, it's great for everybody involved. Like, it's a bunch of
great
artists
for all the artists, and like I think if it gets hot, like great, like do it.
Yeah, and I think we'll just end up seeing a bunch of different people, all with these like slightly different niches, filling different areas, and so that's what I'm excited to see.
Yeah, I mean, what I think is interesting too, just on this like mid-cap gallery conversation, is like institutions are generally a few years behind on the kind of like full adoption of technology. And we're right now in the era, and have been in the era for the past few years, where a lot of the gallery, like successful artists that are selling physical works in galleries, like these are people that blew up on Instagram.
Right. Right.
Like, so basically that technology layer took about 10 years to mature to the point where the art world would take it seriously and be like, oh, like instead of flyers and marketing and like art, magazines and, mailing lists.
Right.
They've finally kind of transitioned into the world of social media and being like, oh, this artist, we're going to rep this artist because they've spent 10 years building up a big enough audience on Instagram that our gallery will be full on opening night with collectors and buyers. Yeah. Because the whole time when there's not a show, these people are selling art through their Instagram accounts. And I think the next thing we're going to see is, we're in the first few years of the crypto art space. The next thing that's going to happen is, we're going to skip the whole like gallery part of it, and it's going to be artists going directly to their collectors and buyers just through digital means.
Yeah.
And I just think that's the inevitable future of this space.
Did you see
totally
the
agree.
Beeple studio?
Yeah. Oh my God, it looks awesome.
Like that kind of reminds me, like this is an artist who's been massively successful, and then he put a ton of money into this massive fucking compound.
Yeah, and by the way, shout out to him because
That's
like
awesome.
Everybody, including myself, I'm not gonna lie,
Shit on him for selling his
Yeah,
ETH.
we're just like, oh, you sold all your ETH. You really, really care about the community.
You paid
and then he's
$35
like,
million in taxes.
exactly. And then he's like, boom. And then we're like, oh shit. Like, all right, this guy actually does care.
Physical monument.
Yeah, that's like fucking amazing.
And he
art.
sold his ETH at a great time, too.
Yes.
Dude, he sold it like
We're all just
king time.
jealous.
Yeah, we're all just jealous.
It's all
like,
cope.
I want to be that trader. Like
I think what you were saying too is interesting, and I think like to me then the next question and kind of what we've been thinking about a lot is like in a world where the artist is the platform, like curation of that stuff becomes really important.
Right.
And so I think it'll be interesting to see like how we kind of decide what tastemakers are and what that looks like, and like kind of the approach that we're trying to take with Escher is very similar to what you just said of kind of giving artists the tools to go directly to their consumers. And so like kind of our stance is that anything that you can do on Manifold for free, you can still do on Escher for free.
Right.
But like we'll curate everything, when someone goes to the Dave Krugman page, it'll show all the art you've ever made and all of that. And it'll aggregate all your different Manifold contracts and random ass contracts from some nifty
Block
gateway
party.
drop.
Block party,
Yeah, all of it.
And it'll be really interesting to see kind of how different parties kind of go about the curation side of it, like talking with like AOTM about how they're curating things and finding individual buyers and all of that, and like how Super Rare they're just kind of the OG of curation, but they maybe have curated too many things, or like Nifty Gateway curated too many drops, and I think we'll see a ton of different kind of like flavors of like level, like depth of curation and levels of it. It's going to be very interesting.
I like thinking of you as a platform.
That's just the tone that you said that in. It concerns me.
It sounded a little sexual.
Yeah.
I mean, just a little bit.
Again, the tone.
Question for you that I had before, but I can't remember.
Okay, go on.
No, you were saying before about artists being their own platform sort of thing with Christie's and Sotheby's. So do you think back in the day when because as we all know, Dave is an Instagram sensation, when you were an Instagram sensation and you were getting all those followers, I noticed now that a lot of these artists are getting called by CAA and UTA and whatnot. But did they not do that when like Instagram was blowing up? Like, is that a new thing? Because they maybe recognize like, okay, we see that maybe it's not right now, but like you're saying, in 4 or 5 years, they're like, we want to get ahead of it.
I think they're getting ahead of it, and I think
that makes a lot of sense.
I think it's smart. I think that there's a new type of celebrity.
Got it.
About to erupt.
I understand.
I mean, look, we have celebrities within our own community.
Yeah, we're sitting with one right here.
Over there.
Scott.
Yeah, with that mustache.
Did you see the New York Times article?
Wait, really?
On him?
No.
From Top Shot? It's classic. He's holding the cat. It's like...
I never saw that.
It was
We'll show it
Wall
after.
Street Journal, not New York Times.
Oh, sorry. No,
Yeah, let's put it right here.
Get your facts straight.
No,
I
I'm
wanna-
in Times mode from Drift. I'm thinking about the Times article.
So I think what's happening is that a lot of people, myself included, I think we recognize that this is going to be and is the beginning of a huge cultural movement.
Right.
And we're in it, so we see it every day and how much it's changing people's lives, and it's changing the way we make art, and it's changing the way that we relate to each other and the way that we connect within our communities. And there's been many, many times throughout history where betting early on those cultural waves is extremely profitable. I think the most obvious example off the top of my head is like hip-hop music, right? So if you were somebody, like the people that were making hip-hop music in the late 80s and early 90s, like it wasn't like people were like, this isn't music. They were like, what are you doing? Like you're mixing other people's music and it's almost like the AI conversation right now is like, what are the ethics of you taking this old 70s soul song, sampling it, and then rapping over it? Like that's not music at all. And now it's probably like the biggest music genre by like market cap. And those people that in the early 90s were just like, rapping on stoops in Brooklyn are now like the Jay-Z's of the world, who are these, billionaires who bet really early on cultural shifts. So what's happening right now is that, and the other thing I'll say about hip hop, which is really interesting, is like that was enabled by advances in technology that people used in order to create new art forms, and that's exactly what's happening now with blockchain and smart contracts. So we're in like the late 80s, early 90s version of crypto art, and the people that take it seriously and push against all like the FUD, like you know how much FUD early hip hop got? Like people were like, this is ridiculous. So we're in that stage right now, and the people who stick with it and use the technology and make it through the gauntlet of, you know, the mental health, the ability to stay relevant, the ability to adapt to new technologies, those people are going to be like the Jay-Z's and the, you know, P. Diddy's.
Yeah, you got like Run DMC,
yeah,
and like, Dr. Dre.
Graffiti art is now very popular.
Exactly, the same thing.
And it was the same exact thing.
Yeah, so like we're just at another huge inflection point for artists. And just to tie this back to the original conversation is like CAA is looking at this and being like,
let's get ahead now.
We're going to sign these people
that makes a lot more
who
sense.
have a lot of potential to become those like mega stars when this is just such an everyday thing for people.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that we get to that everyday thing for people is when companies like Meta and Instagram are like, we're incorporating NFTs into our platform like at the touch of a button, and you don't even need to know what a blockchain is. Because like everything, when I did my job on Instagram, it was just like, I just hit a button, I minted my thing, everybody just paid with Apple Pay, you know?
Digital collectible.
And then all of a sudden, in my Instagram account, I have all the money from that drop, and then I can go redeploy those resources and continue to market myself and build up my brand. And once that technology is put into the hands of every single artist, I mean, that's when we hit that mainstream moment, and that's when this, you know, small seed of a culture grows into this giant oak
And it's
tree.
kind of crazy because Apple gets 30% of its sales.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. Like,
That's
imagine any NFT platform being like, oh, yeah, it's a 30% fee.
Right.
Yeah.
But Instagram's platform, you'll pay that 30% because it's fucking Instagram.
Right.
By the way, and
you're building collectors who will buy on.
I was going to say, you said digital collectibles, and I think that's really like shout out to Instagram and, you know, Will Sabran, who's building that and what he's doing
wonderful.
there. He gets it, you know, like, you know, we've had this conversation, right? Both had this conversation with him. He's like, you know, you drive a car, you don't know how your fucking car drives, right? So you don't pop the hood. Ooh, what's going on inside?
Look at the chain.
Yeah, look inside. Like, look at the chain. Like, you just drive your car, and I think what Instagram and Meta, even though like people want to hate on them, they're very smart. Like, you know, guys like Will, like they see it. They're like, okay, I'm going to create digital collectibles. And digital
I think it's
art,
really, really
you know?
smart to call it digital collectibles. Yeah. I wouldn't mind if we just never use the word NFT again.
Yeah.
I don't really give a shit. It doesn't mean anything to me. I think that's why I'm very careful to either say, I always say crypto art.
Yeah, I say crypto art as well.
Because like that to me is like what we're doing here. And when you say crypto art, you're including the ethos. Yeah. You're including the, you know, self-sovereignty. You're including the attitude of decentralization.
This is what happened with ICOs, by the way. When there was a time when everybody said ICO, you're like, yeah, let's get in, and then ICO. Now you say ICO, you're like, I'm not getting that Ponzi scheme. But back in the day, everybody wanted to get an ICO.
Yeah.
And I don't think that ICO was the ICO's fault. I don't think it's NFT's fault. But for some reason, I agree, they correlated.
And look what happens, like when you don't understand the difference between those terms, and also, you know, NFT is just literally a word for a technology. It's for everything. It's not just for art. And so look what happens. I mean, this National Geographic drop.
Yeah.
Like I could not have designed a worse marketing lead up to this thing. And
wait, is it on Solana?
No, it's on Polygon.
But you have to KYC to buy it.
Yeah. First of all, you have to KYC. Second of all, they went with a platform that is, you know,
never heard of.
Yeah, that nobody. I mean, a lot of us have never heard of. Yeah. Nat Geo should have partnered with Instagram and been like, we're going to do this all through Instagram. Like it would be it would have gone so smoothly. And I'm genuinely worried that one of the biggest media companies in the world now is just scarred for life because of the response.
Did the drop happen already?
Yeah. It hasn't sold out. I don't even think it's
not even close 50%. To sold out.
I had no idea it even started.
People were trying to KYC and getting rejected.
Yeah, I tried.
Yeah,
because like there's a bunch of artists on there. And by the way, just to be
clear,
just to be very clear,
amazing
artists and the artists that were involved, and I know like they had a voice. Just like I want to make sure everybody understands this. Like those artists were vocal and
yes.
did say what they felt.
They were not listened to.
So the choices that were made by that, like, because we all know them very well,
yes.
some of them, and I know some of them. They made it clear and they were not listened to.
Yeah.
So
yes.
I agree. By the way,
and I talked to a couple artists as well, and they were also, even though it was going or is going poorly, they don't seem to really care as much because they get to say they are a Nat Geo photographer.
Which is amazing, by the way.
And to them, that is more important than any sale or NFT.
Yeah, I agree. It's just for me, it was like I was so excited for this moment because I grew up on National Geographic. I love National Geographic, and I think it's one of the most important platforms for photographers of all time. And I care so deeply that crypto art succeeds and that we put our best foot forward. And so one of the, I think, missteps is that they have some of the top selling crypto artists in the space on board. Mm-hmm. Amazing curation. And when they put out their release to I don't even know how many hundreds of millions of followers they have.
Yeah.
They put out a release and it was like, in order to kind of explain NFTs, and they used a picture of a Bored Ape. And I'm like, that's like the most, like, look, shout out Yuga, like, they've done incredible things. But to the people who hate NFTs, it's like the calling card.
Especially in that, yes,
reference.
exactly. Especially in that community, like, why
you literally
use
had
the Bored
NFTs
Ape.
to show them,
Correct.
and that was an amazing case to be
Yeah.
like, look, NFTs are just artwork.
Yeah.
It's not some stupid monkey picture.
Yeah.
It can also just be the artwork that you know and love, and that's what we're selling you.
And so that became this lightning rod on social media, and I'm just genuinely concerned that I think the brand that could succeed the most in crypto art is now like just traumatized by the response of the haters.
To be fair, I think that thank God we did get off to a good foot with the other one, which is Time. Because they're known for their pictures, and they did an excellent job at making sure that the world understood it the right way.
Yeah,
I agree with you, but at least I feel like, but I do like that's a shout out to Time because what Keith did there, it was just way different. And
I think what Keith did at Time is one of them will be looked back at as one of the most important.
For sure. I mean, onboarding all those photographers and artists into it. I'm sorry, I know you want to say something.
No,
yeah, but like it's just, Time magazine is so iconic, but the first thing anybody thinks about Time is the front cover, right? It's a picture. Like, that's what it is, right? Not really. I don't even know what's inside Time magazine.
No, I don't think I've read
one. But I remember seeing the covers as a kid. It's amazing. My parents used to buy them, bring them home. Like, so for me, Keith understood that, and he did that so well. And with National Geographic, it was like a similar idea, and yet I don't understand. They just kind of like, I don't want to go on a rant, but I'm just like, how do you miss the mark? You have all these amazing artists, and here's the other thing. You can onboard with these NFT artists, these digital artists, we're going to say.
Crypto
artists. You could also onboard these amazing legacy artists. And I feel what scares me is some of these legacy artists that they've already had. I don't want to scare those people away because I want to see some of their work for us in this community. Yeah. And now they're going to be like, oh, well, listen, I'm not going to come.
I tried.
Or, no, they didn't try yet because they saw this. And they're like, I'm not doing that crap if that didn't even do any well.
Yeah, I think that this is like that kind of stuff is just a really good reminder that like a good chunk of traditional brands and media like are just never going to make it into this space because it's too weird and too new. And like, to me, I'm like always so much more excited to back like the really crypto native people who are doing the new weird thing and like really leaning into it. And like anytime a brand like Time does execute on it, like happy to celebrate them. That's amazing. But that to me is like the exception to the rule.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that's also because it's just so hard to figure out what's going on. I mean, like Dave said, we're just so new to this. And like,
yeah.
But it's also, I mean, I think the issue this particular case is that it's a huge bureaucracy. Like, the people who are making the decisions about high-level partnerships are not on the ground with the artists in the community.
I'm sure it was just someone who had a friend who started the company that
Correct.
they dropped it on.
Yeah, his son
right.
started the company.
It's a cool name for the other company. I don't want to say it because we're fighting them, but like it's actually a very cool name. But you can really speak to this. And I don't know if I say you can, then you can't. We'll cut it. But you kind of went through this with AT&T, right? Are you like because they onboarded you to do their Instagram?
Yes.
And that was so new to them. So I mean that process had to be very similar.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, I did like a brief stint at a company called BBDO, an incredible advertising agency. It's like one of the biggest in the world. And it was extremely formative for my career. I was working under a brilliant guy, Matt McDonald, and he saw this article in the New York Times about my Instagram projects that I was doing like pro bono for the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And he brought me in and was like, hey, like, do you want to help us with the brands that want to get into Instagram? And so for a few years, I did a series of projects for AT&T's Instagram account. And basically, this was like 2014. And so it was such a new platform, and we were meeting a lot of the same resistance from brands and a lot of the same misunderstandings from brands. Fortunately, AT&T kind of just gave me they're like, here's the budget. Come up with some cool ideas, and we did a lot of awesome things. Me, Jay and Silva, and Ravi Vora did a project I came up with called Covered Here, and we did a photo project where we took 100 images on a road trip from Seattle to Las Vegas, but only in areas that we had a certain amount of coverage on the AT&T network. And the hashtag was called Covered Here.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's probably still floating around out there. But like ideas like that.
Floating around, by the way, you should look up Dave on YouTube. He has some old interviews he did like on MSNBC or whatever, and he has like Bloomberg. He's like a full beard.
Oh wow!
Oh, yeah.
And you know it's very hard to recognize.
Really?
Him. I actually want to see if I never looked up JN.
Oh,
JN probably has some great old interviews also.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
But go back to Ravi. How do you pronounce the name?
Ravi Vora. Yeah.
Ravi.
Not Ravi.
Not Ravi.
I believe it's Ravi.
Right.
But I'm gonna check and make sure.
Just make sure. Okay.
I'm horrible at pronouncing.
Yes.
But anyway, just to close the loop on that, a lot of we ran into a lot of friction around these ideas because nobody had ever done anything like that before, and people don't want to be huge corporations that are multinational, giants. Their legal team was like, no. And I'm sure the same thing is happening right now, especially around, the third rail topic of cryptocurrencies and blockchain, especially in a bear market.
I don't think that they were even calling it a web. They wouldn't use the words Web3 at the beginning, right? National Geographic. I'm almost positive.
I mean, I have no idea.
I think at the beginning they were not they wouldn't call it even.
What I will say is brands, to all the brands out there listening. I know you're listening.
Oh yeah, we've got tons of brands.
The millions of listeners.
All you have to do this right is just come into the community with us. Every single person in this space is so interested in being a steward for you and to help you not make mistakes that on the to the outsiders are very easy traps to fall in, but for the insiders, there are just alarm bells.
Obvious.
And as long as you work with people who have actually been in the space and protect that core ethos of what we're actually trying to build here, you can't fail. You cannot fail. And there's very specific people you can work with that can make almost a guaranteed success.
Yeah.
If Transient Labs did the Nat Geo drop, it'd be sold out.
They would kill it.
Yeah. And I love that team.
And by the way, there's good people in this space. I'm a big Chimpers fan, right? So, all of a sudden I was listening to one of the spaces, and Misan Harriman was on. I was like, why is he here? And I found out that Paramount, hired him to be an advisor for Web3. And I'm like, wait, that's genius.
Yeah.
Because here's the guy who understands everything. That's smart, right? That's a smart move because they're like, okay, we need to get into this slowly, but here's a guy. I mean, he also has the most amazing voice in the world.
Yeah,
I want him to do his spaces. I'm being serious. And he doesn't follow me. One day I hope he follows me because I really love this man.
Do you want me to DM him and ask him to follow you?
I really love him.
Do it.
And I always like his stuff in common. Here's the thing what I want. And tell him this is what I want. I want him to do his spaces. I think this would break records in NFTs in our community. He's going to get on, and all he's going to do is read us Dr. Seuss books. Okay? How amazing would that be?
Is that a Sound XYZ NFT?
Yes. And then we're going to mint it, and then everybody can buy it after. I mean, it's just going to feel so good. But back to my point, if you get the right individuals who really understand this space, like Dave Krugman, and you hire them to be your advisors, then you're doing smart things. Now, even if you do that, because the truth is, Nat Geo did have some good people that they hired as advisors, and they listened to them, which is so frustrating. But we have a long way to go. Obviously, I
feel like we've seen that with a couple different brands. Like I won't name them, but like we were talking to a brand a long time ago.
Name names.
No.
And like basically, they just kept getting caught up in red tape. Like basically, everyone on their team was like, "This is a fucking awesome idea. Let's do it." And then like a few weeks later, they're like, "We can't do it." Yeah. And then everyone on the team quit, and now they're all doing other things in Web3. Happy for them, but like basically, like the company hired a bunch of people to do a thing, and then they came back and they're like, "We've been in the space. This is what we do." And the company was like, "No, you can't do that." And they're like, "Okay, then we quit."
It's like the Game of Thrones thing. Like,
we've definitely seen that with like a company came in the space, big company, did a drop, didn't meet their expectations, and then like the people I talked to for that drop are like, one of them's hosting a podcast with Bankless now. One of them's working in Web3 full time, and like they just all left that company. They're like
we're not quitting
here.
Yeah, but we're not going to quit the space.
No, like they fell in love with the space, and we're like, okay.
But that's what I'm saying. Like that's so like you just brought it up, so I have to talk about it. Like, I mean, Game of Thrones. How can you mess that up? Like, I don't understand. Now, look, I understand season 8 was the worst thing ever created, and those two and those two producers need to be stricken. Everything needs to be taken away from them. Yeah. They should never allowed to be make television again for what they did, ripping at our hearts like that. But besides that, I mean, it wasn't even the art was bad. Like. It wasn't. Everything was bad about it, but those hands. I mean,
what, you don't walk around like this?
I don't. Hey, what's up, Dave? Like, I don't understand how.
But just think of the level.
How did somebody look at that and not realize it was just terrible?
Well, the fingers were also 4x the normal length.
Yeah, it was like these. It was like super long.
It was salad fingers.
Claws, but like built into your.
You guys remember salad fingers?
Salad fingers.
This looks like fucking Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah. Or like the lady from with the hot dog fingers.
Yeah.
In the movie.
I just think like I just want brands. I don't want brands to come in, approach it the wrong way, and then just lose 5 years of their first mover advantage.
You mean like you didn't like the Pepsi drop?
No,
exactly. So it's like
brands versus artists. Like,
I'll tell you what. Yeah,
Tom Sachs has come in and done a bunch of.
I love Tom Sachs,
and I love Tom.
Shit,
yeah,
and it's
great.
like it's because he's himself working with his own studio and not this bureaucratic.
And Tom gets it, and I everything he does. I have rockets, and we own rocks and shit like that. But he agreed. It's like his own thing. You know which brand I think is going to do best first, though?
What?
We'll go around. I think Disney.
Yeah.
I think Iger's coming in there, dude, and he was running Top Shot for a little while, right? He was like very involved there.
He was like, there were rumors going around that Disney was going to acquire Dapper Labs.
I still think that's going to happen. I also have a huge bag of flow, so I really hope that happens.
Full disclosure.
Full disclosing.
I have absolutely no inside information on this. My theory is that it was going to happen, and then Top Shot blew up so much that Dapper killed the deal and raised at their $8 billion valuation.
They raised too much right away,
and they raised too much, and all of a sudden the vow was all fucked, and it didn't work anymore because they had that couple month period where they made so much money.
So it could work now because we're somewhat in the bear.
I don't really know.
But Iger was involved with Top Shot, wasn't he?
So he was on like the board of Dapper or something like that.
I think I mean, I just think Disney with him there, and he's. I mean, I don't know if
I think there's literally one sentence. I definitely said this in the last podcast. If you have this sentence in your mind as a brand, as your North Star, your guiding light, whatever you will, which is NFTs are a tool to align incentives within your communities. That's it. If you can just build around that idea, you are not going to fuck this up.
Yeah.
And, I think the art should be good. You should put a lot of effort into making it beautiful. But the key is that you need to use the tokens in ways that is like a glue for your community that binds people together. And the way that magnets work is like the polarity of electrons is aligned, and like that's what NFTs do. It like aligns all your little arrows so they're all pointing towards the same common goal. And that is such a powerful tool for businesses to use. And social media is like the monopoly money version of that. And now we're in like now it's like a real thing where you can really incentivize people, because in attention economies, it's a very weak binding force. I don't care that much when I unfollow somebody or when somebody unfollows me. But if I bought an NFT that was worth $10,000, I care a lot, and I'm paying a lot of attention to what that brand is doing, and I'm also incentivized to help that project succeed. And if I'm one of 10,000 people in this hyper-aligned group of invested advocates for whatever purpose we're talking about, which can be anything, then that's just such a powerful person to have on your side. And I think that if brands can just focus on that and not try to do, like, the Pepsi thing, for example, is like they just dropped like a million microphones and then walked away, right? That's not what the technology's for. We don't need the microphones. We need like
magnets.
Yeah, and I want like a concert that I can go to where it's only for holders of that microphone, and I get to see, I get to see Frank Ocean play, and like I'm front row. Like, that's fucking cool. And I think that can absolutely happen, and I just hope that brands realize the opportunity and what an advantage they can have if they just understand that early.
Do you stand in front of a mirror and practice speaking like this? Because I just need to understand. It feels like it's from a script, and I know it's not.
Wait, you can't see the teleprompter back there?
Yeah, there's no
Reese
teleprompter.
is holding cards.
Yeah, but like it's just so fluid.
I just think about this all the time.
All the time?
Yeah.
Like when you're brushing your teeth.
Just
you're like, fucking crest.
Yeah.
Like, where is my
yeah.
crest?
Yeah.
I do not feel aligned to the brand.
Exactly. Like
I would floss every night if I got a POAP.
Right, you would.
You'd have to pay 0.1 ETH to migrate those POAPs.
Oh, yeah.
You might not want that many.
I mean,
floss is actually a primitive blockchain.
I think going back to what Redbeard said about like what companies are you most bullish on in Web3, or who are you looking to kind of innovate and lead in that scenario? For me, it's kind of Starbucks in a weird way.
Yeah, they're doing a great job.
I feel like the Starbucks app is such a... I was using the Starbucks app as like a second bank account. Like, I'd buy some gift cards and just like throw $1,000 in the Starbucks app, and it's like, all right, I know like this isn't going anywhere.
Right.
And I know other people who like probably have a bigger portion of their net worth than they should in like just apps. And you're basically giving that company an interest-free loan. Like, if I put $1,000 in Starbucks and I don't use it for a year, it's like I gave them $1,000 at 0% interest to go do whatever with. Wow. And I'm curious
because you're going to spend. Like, that's interesting.
I know I'm going to spend it. Like,
so you're going to spend it. So actually, it should help. It's interesting. Now you're saying this, I'm thinking one of the biggest problems that like the next generation has is they don't know how to take care of their money. Right? They keep just spending it everywhere. But it is
DoorDash,
fascinating
Uber.
if we use. Right. No, I know you do. If you're using the blockchain and this, digital asset space where you're like, okay, look, I know I'm going to spend $1,000. Starbucks know you're going to spend $1,000. They can see how much you're spending. Instead of using your debit card to doing it, you're using their app or their chain, whatever, and they're giving you free stuff at the same time. That's kind of really interesting because like a whole new generation probably would want to do that rather than just, I have to look at my bank account and see what I spend or look at my credit card. Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I would say another brand that I was skeptical of at first, but it seems like they've really been doing well is Nike after the Artifact acquisition. I haven't paid incredibly close attention to like the swoosh platform.
Did you get on the list? Like, no. I got my ID and everything.
Yeah, we got it.
No, I haven't.
I got mine.
I'm still waiting.
You didn't get yours?
I think it's worth doing.
Yeah.
Why didn't you get it?
But yeah, I'm just curious to see what they do. It seems like they have some promising... It seems like they get it.
I think they get it also. I think it's like a lot like Dave said. It's like, here's somebody, I didn't read it yet, but somebody just handed me the biography of Phil Knight.
Shoe Dog. It's a great biography.
So I want to read it, and I heard that it's very much like that. Like he just saw into the future, and that was the whole thing of Nike. He was like, I know how to. He knew how to operate early on,
working with his track coat using a fucking waffle iron to make the soles of shoes, and then they're called Blue Ribbon.
It's really interesting. So I definitely that was actually that Laker show.
Oh yeah,
Showtime, which I loved. I'm a big Jerry Buss fan. The scene where Phil Knight comes up to Magic Johnson and he's like this young guy and he's like, "Oh, I want to get you," and he says no, and then they say like if he had said yes, he would have been worth like $10 billion or something like that. You know, he offered like whatever it was, 10-20% of the company.
Yeah, before going to Jordan.
Before going to Jordan. So I just think that's like kind of fascinating. But I guess that goes back to like people who are early adopters and see things, you know, before.
Well, the thing about Nike, I think the reason that these brands are all succeeding is like Starbucks and Nike, and I can think of a few other examples, but we'll focus there, is that they already have use cases that make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So for Starbucks, it's like the blockchain is great for loyalty programs because you can accrue value around tokens. And then, like, that's just a no-brainer. Like, I think that's one of the biggest use cases is, like, I think every airline will basically be on chain soon. And they'll, like, your loyalty points will be, you know.
Except Southwest.
Yeah.
they're still working on getting on a computer.
Yeah.
They're still calling people by phone to schedule shit.
Well, maybe, like, sometimes it's the people who need it the most that adopt the technology the soonest,
Maybe.
right? And then Nike, you know, fast forwarding past the days of like development, research, and design, and blah blah. Like at a certain point, like a shoe's a shoe.
Yeah.
Right. But when a shoe's an idea, and you have like these are art objects essentially. Like, you know, when you do a drop, like a hyped shoe drop, it's a sculpt. You're selling sculptures for people's feet, and like so they're really in a prime position to understand this market because that's what they've been doing for forever. And like companies like Hypebeast and you know, with Hype Moon, like these companies are going to do very well, in my opinion,
what
because
is Hype Moon?
Hype Moon is Hypebeast's like
Crypto.
Web3 publication.
Yeah, it's sick.
Yeah.
They're just kind of like they're starting
the
out,
scenes,
but I'm very bullish on them. I've actually met their team, and I think
they write good stuff. They do a good job.
I love their articles are great.
Who gets it better than like the hype culture? Yeah. This is all hype culture.
And I mean, and also like as someone who's participated in a lot of sneakers drops over my years, like provably fair giveaways on chain is like an incredibly valuable thing.
Yeah.
If we could get a 6529 randomized like at this block allow list thing, but for sneakers, I would feel so much better about losing. But,
at least it's fair.
But now I feel like, did I just get cooked? Like, is it just like kids in a Discord who are the age 16 to 21 writing scripts? They're just getting all the fucking shoes, or is it like other people getting them?
I mean, like if Nike's paying attention, you watch the meme cards drops, and like that is literally the blueprint of how you should be doing sneaker drops.
Yes,
no,
100%.
I agree.
And you give people NFTs with every sneaker drop, and you are able to accrue this list of people who actually want to buy your shit. And if you don't want to and you want to sell it to someone else because you're overbuying new sneakers, you do it. But you can build this entire chain of people and like a provenance of how you should be distributing the stuff that you're selling.
And you're rewarding the sneakerheads.
Yeah.
You're rewarding the people who are collecting all the shoes, which I think is something 6529.
This is going to happen though, like with everything. You know, I know I've said this to all of you. You know, like right now it's called an NFT, but the next thing you'll see the big cycle will be like STOs, will be like security token offerings, whatever it's going to be called, but it's going to be tokenizing real life assets, right? So it's specifically, I mean, I don't know how far away we are, but this will happen one day when you're going to be living in an apartment building in the city and you're going to be paying your $5,000 in rent. And instead of just getting nothing for it, they're going to be able to give you small pieces of tokens of ownership in the building, right? Because they're going to tokenize the whole entire building. Because, you know, the owner of the building who owns 100%, if he could tokenize 20% of it, take that 20%, spread that out over, let's say, a 20-year period to give out, right? That creates value in the building, and it also gives value back to the consumer who's renting and not getting nothing out of it. It's going to happen, especially, forget just real estate. I guarantee, and I guarantee this, and I could be wrong, but I guarantee it. Mark Cuban will tokenize part of the Mavs, like and the Mets, like, you know, another Cohen, who's big into digital assets and stuff. He will tokenize part of a baseball team, and then you're going to have those tokens, which are NFTs, are on chain, and it's going to get you seats and free popcorn. And
sounds like it should start with the Packers.
What?
Because they're already like
that exactly. By the way, it is. It's like if they took the Packers and put them on chain, that's exactly what's going to happen with sport teams. And owners don't mind giving up percentage, right? Because, you know, in the end, they don't. As long as they're liquid, that's all they care about, right? Like they'll sell things.
Well, they also probably want to be the majority.
Always.
So if they hold 51%,
right?
Then it feels a lot.
Correct. So whatever that number is, I'm throwing out numbers, but at some point, the idea that they could become more liquid by tokenizing things and tokenizing real assets, That's sort of like the next, in my opinion, next sort of.
See, I worry a little bit about tokenizing real assets in the sense of like, there's so many compromises and things that happen. And it's like, if I lose my apartment NFT, like I don't lose my apartment. You can show up and I have a gun. I own the NFT. Well, I own a gun.
Yeah, but again, I don't think it's going to be like right.
I feel like there's a weird shift there where like the NFT cannot track 1-to-1 to like a house or.
So I don't think I do believe that most wallets, and I know this is going to be people I hate to hear this, but I think this idea of decentralization is sort of a myth. Okay, like I love the idea, but it's going to be a lot of on like wallets that are going to be sort of.
Oh yeah, I mean I think that most like retail consumers will use a like centrally hosted wallet.
I think so too.
But I think like the thing that's important and like worth fighting for is to always have the option.
Yes,
agreed. And you could always take it off, and that I think that option always exists because the technology allows it to be that way. But I do think that most wallets will be
But the decentralized ethos, it kind of almost feel like Linux, where most people are going to use Apple or Windows,
right?
But for the hardcore people who want the open source software that they have complete customizable control for, it is still there and still works with all the standards of the internet because we built everything on TCP/IP, HTTP, HTTPS, so you can have those different options, but the base layer is all the same. So it's like the base layer is ETH, but then we can have our decentralized stuff, but then most people are probably going to use whatever Apple or Microsoft wallet. I hope we use a different word than wallet. I've complained about this a bit, but I just think the word wallet is so confusing to a new person. Like if I say, this is your crypto wallet, and you think about a real wallet, you would think that if I had my ledger
by the way, I'm shocked that you actually own a wallet.
Yeah.
Do you have a wallet?
Yeah.
Do you have a wallet?
Yeah.
Am I the only one who doesn't have a wallet?
Yeah, I mean, you lost your hat on the way here.
Yeah,
I mean, it'd probably be hard to keep a wallet.
Good point.
I mean, I keep like a really small one. It's just like a card holder, basically.
I don't have a wallet.
But anyway, like the term wallet's problematic.
Do you carry a credit card? I'm sorry, Deez.
No, you're good.
On the back of my phone, I have this little thing. I put one credit card, and I lost my license like 7 years ago, so I don't know where that is.
How do you fly?
I use my passport.
Oh, I guess that makes sense.
Oh boy.
What? When I go to the bars, I use a passport, but now...
So you carry your passport
Who the fuck is
around?
IDing you at a bar?
So now I found out that I just took a picture of it, so I just show it to them on my phone. But one time I went to Dave to a bar, and they wouldn't let us in. They're like, I can't take this. I'm like, what's the difference? I have a beard. I look like I'm a 98. What are you talking about? They wouldn't let me in.
You look older than 21.
For sure.
Barely.
I mean, just a little bit.
But no, the term wallet's problematic. I think it's a lie to people because they think, oh, I have this thing. And
It's kind of more like it's like a safe or like a vault.
To me, it should be called like a key. It's like a keychain.
Yeah, it's like your like access card to the blockchain, and everyone has different things they have access to, which is like the assets that they own.
Imagine the blockchain is a infinitely big bank full of safety deposit box, and your wallet is just a key ring to open those safety deposit box.
That's accurate.
That's how it actually is.
Yeah.
But people think like, oh, the wallet has everything in it,
right.
And then they disassociate like, no, it's just the key to unlock the safety deposit box.
And if somebody else gets your key or access your key, they can move things out of your safety deposit box.
Yes, and it's not stored on that. Like people are like, oh, I have 5 Bitcoin here. Like you watch the TV show Billions, and they do a trade, and like he hands him a ledger, and he's like, here's the crypto, and it's like, you could just send it him. Like, why are you giving him a ledger? You didn't tell him the pin to the ledger.
Right.
You just handed him a ledger with no paper, no pin. Like he can't do anything with it. Anyway,
you've convinced me. I think I'm going to call it the key for now.
Because it is a private key.
Do you want to do? Can we do like a 4-way code tweet, or you only could do two?
You can only do 2.
Let's go co. Get it? So
yeah,
but
quad tweeting is not.
Quad tweeting's not there
because we are so intuitive as species. Like when we hear a word, we automatically assume something based off of the old definition of that word.
Right.
And it's kind
That's actually like the reason why we stopped calling like a lot of our like verbiage around like tessera. We started like making up our own words for it because we're like, you have so much of a preconceived notion of everything that exists.
Yeah.
Right.
And like that was actually a big thing at MakerDAO. With like, so MakerDAO's entire code base is like, it's essentially impossible to understand because it's literally all made up words. And like that sounds a little ridiculous, and it is ridiculous. And like it takes as a smart contract dev when you're onboarding and like learning about it, it literally takes you months because like the function calls are like flip, flap, flop, and you're calling the cat to flop the dog, and like it's literal nonsense. But the reason that they did it, and I've slowly adjusted to this over time, was like when you're trying to reinvent the financial system, if you just use all the same words that we used previously, everyone already has their preconceived notions of what that means and what it does.
Right.
And like nothing in the previous world perfectly maps to the new things that are being built.
Right.
And so while you may take more time to onboard people to understand what's happening, they come in with like a totally clear mind and like no preconceived notions of what you're building.
I mean, we made up all our words. Wagme, hodl.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking a totally different language, right?
Yeah.
Because if we said, don't sell your stuff, it would be boring. But if it's like, Wagme, oh, okay, well, that I'm going to listen to,
I saw the funniest tweet. I wish I could like give it credit. Oh my gosh.
It's okay. You can say it was me.
It's like you sold one ETH. Like go back to it's like go back to Web 2 trader. Or something.
right.
So good.
Oh, I think you sent me that one.
Yeah,
that was funny.
I'm going to take a quick bathroom break, and we are back. Sorry for that. I had to take a little break, but yeah. So I don't even know where were we before.
I think I was going to tell you how I met Dave.
Let's do it.
Yeah, how did that happen?
It was a rainy night. I was outside with no raincoat, standing in a puddle, when suddenly this man out of nowhere in the dark came and asked if I could move so he could take the picture of the puddle under me.
Really?
And that man was Dave Krugman. No, that's
and the puddle was actually your pee. It was
just me
just a piss
peeing,
puddle.
and then
Benny has a very active imagination.
So Dave, how did you meet Benny?
So shout out Vlad once again.
Yeah, that's right.
Vlad, gave me the opportunity to mint some work on Block Party, which Benny collected alongside his compatriots.
That's right.
And then I think Vlad introduced me to Zanzibar.
Yep.
And then Zanzibar was like, yo, my friend Benny is having a dinner.
Yeah, with Shloms.
In Williamsburg.
Yeah.
And he's like, I know you live in Bushwick. Like,
Yeah.
why don't you see if you can go over there?
Yeah.
So I came over. We went to this pizza spot.
Do you remember who was there that night with us, who I brought?
Wasn't it the guy who did tape the banana to
Yeah,
the wall?
I brought the
Art
banana guy.
Basel?
Yeah, from Art Basel. Remember that banana guy?
Yeah.
I'm friendly with him. I brought him that night, remember?
Yeah, I remember him. He's a very nice guy.
He was very nice.
And then a couple other people were there. And I brought Gabriella, actually.
Yeah, that was Gabriella when I first met her.
And Will was there, Savas.
Yeah, Will.
So it was funny because we sat down, we had a great meal, and then Benny and I just immediately were like best friends.
Yeah,
And then
I
the
think
rest is
we
history.
by accident we brushed hands and you held my hand under the table.
Benny.
Oh, sorry.
I've seen you do it during the pod
Yeah,
a few
you
times.
just you
Guys,
can't see because
you can't see what's going on under the
right. You
table.
don't know what's going on under there. That was the first time we met, and then I think we went out for like drinks, and then that like next day, I think we brought your second piece on. I think that night I said to you, we were like, oh, we want to buy it, right? Or was that the next time we hung out? Was the second time we hung out?
I don't remember when that was. It was pre-drive.
Yeah, for sure. It was your second piece was on Super Rare at the time.
Yes.
So
And then you guys bought it.
yeah,
And you
a
still
long
have it.
time ago.
I actually want to make you guys. I'm making prints for my 1-of-1 holders right now, and I'm going to send you one.
Okay,
I'll send you all
I'll
one.
take it. I need more art, actually.
Do you?
Yeah,
Cool.
I need more physical art. I'm realizing, like, I just need more. I have a lot of digital art, but I need some.
Have you bought any digital frames yet?
Can we go to the next topic? Look, here's my thing about digital frames. Okay, while we're here, I think they're all great. I am uber bullish though on Joe from Infinite Objects. Like I see in his bigger, larger frames and the way he approaches the whole sort of ecosystem. And while everybody else is sort of making frames, and shout out to a lot of them, we've used them and they're great. I do like what Infinite Objects is doing sort of beyond hardware.
What are they doing beyond hardware?
I can't really. We'll ask.
Okay,
him, we'll ask him when he gets here, because I don't have a lot to say.
We'll have
but
him on a podcast.
Yeah, I think we're having him this weekend. But like just in general, like it's funny. I always was like, oh, those smaller screens, they made no sense. Now I'm just like, oh wait, the smaller screens are fucking cool. And they actually make more sense to sometimes have a smaller screen than these larger screens.
You know what's really cool was when Venus Over Manhattan.
Yeah.
The squiggles.
I love those guys. But they put 100 squiggles and they're all on separate infinite object screens. Mm-hmm. That was fucking cool.
Yeah.
I fucked that up. I got a mint, and it was my worst squiggle, so I sold it. And then I forgot there's an infinite object claim, so I didn't get the infinite object. I sold it too quick. It's like...
we're doing actually, I think I can say this by the time this comes out. We're
Yes.
doing a drip drop Infinite Objects collab.
Let's go.
So that's coming real soon.
Yeah. I mean, now we're talking about squiggles. I think we should talk about how Dave and I have a love for Eric.
How did you meet Eric?
We're in a throuple with Snowfro.
So Dave met him. We are. We're in a throuple. I think it's fair to say we're in a throuple. Dave, you met him in...
Dollar Monopoly introduced me to
Yes.
Snowfro in Austin at
Yes.
South by Southwest.
And I wasn't there, and then Dave's like, oh, you need to meet Eric. I was like, he's not going to want to meet me. And I actually owned the 1-to-1 at the time from him, from the Cube. But I didn't really...
The first night I met Eric, I showed him some of the images for Drip Drop. Yeah. And I was like, Chromie Squiggles and art blocks has inspired me as a photographer to find a way to use generative ideas, because it's not, I just want to be clear, Drip Drop is not a gen art project, it's a photography project. But we use machine vision to kind of read the rarity off every single image. And I was telling him that, and he was so encouraging, so kind with his time.
He's a really, really kind person.
And he gave me so many cool ideas. And he basically was like, he's not like an official advisor on the project or anything, but without his insights, it wouldn't have been as cool as it ended up being. Also,
shout out to Dollar Monopoly. Another good one.
Yeah, dude. So he was also just super kind to me. I met him at some other event, and he's like, I'm going to meet Snowfro. Do you want to come? I was like, yes. Yeah. And so big shout out to him. He was integral to the Drip
when
Drop
we have
process.
NFT NYC, we're gonna do a podcast with Eric. We're
absolutely.
We're the three of us.
Yeah.
When we do one of the what's the other show called that we do?
Shipwreck.
Shipwreck. Thank you. We'll do a Shipwreck with him. He really is not just nice. Like, I mean, I know Dave and I are biased, but the way he approaches the idea of art blocks and generative art, in my opinion, I know Dave feels the same, will be the first real bridge to trad art. I'm convinced.
We've
of this.
seen it.
Yeah, it started.
Pace Gallery, everything.
Yeah, like it's going.
I'm just glad that somebody who's done so well and done such cool things with the technology is also the nicest person I've ever met, and is like such a passionate defender of the core ethos of what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, and his the just really thoughtful comments he had on royalties when that was a thing, and he time and time again, when there's a controversial thing that comes out, and I guess I'm biased because I tend to agree with his takes.
Right.
I find myself agreeing with what he has to say, and I think he shares it very elegantly and in a way that's easy to digest and doesn't feel combative.
And what's crazy is that like those tweets, like Dave and I know this because like sometimes he told us about specifically that tweet. But he told us like it took 4 hours to write that thread, right, or something like that.
Or so thoughtful, you can tell.
He doesn't just tweet like me, like
like me, yeah
exactly, like us. He thinks about what he's tweeting and just put
you
that
can
much...
think about tweets,
right?
I didn't know you could do that.
Exactly, but to think,
I don't think it's legal, but people do.
but to understand that he really had that, took that time to really care about what he was going to write because it involved, like Dave said, the community and like sort of what we're doing. It just shows to you what the presence and the power that Eric has, and I think it's really fascinating because it's kind of watching somebody who's almost in a way, and I think we could talk about this. I think I've talked about this last time, but being able to be with these people who could be one day living legends, in sort of ways in this art renaissance that we're building is just fascinating to me.
I think he's already there.
I think he's getting there. I mean, his hair is. By the way, I want to put a great picture up here. Okay, this is a picture where my hand is. I have
Make a note
of what Eric Snowfro's real fro was.
Yeah,
I have that picture. See it right here. I mean, look at this. Look how beautiful this is.
Also, I want to take this moment to say to Eric.
Yeah.
The last time I saw you, your hair was so short.
It was short,
and I don't want to see that again.
No, he
never cut it again.
Yeah,
he didn't even grow it out.
The fro is in your name, sir.
Yeah,
please.
He would have to change his name to Eric Short Fro.
Yeah.
Well, this is not okay.
Eric
Nofro.
No, Eric Nofro.
Nofro.
That's
From
pretty good.
Snowfro to Nofro.
That's his alt account.
Yeah, this dark side.
Yeah.
But you and the fact that you guys are doing this podcast and having some of these legends on is just tremendous. I mean,
And it's a way for us to just get to know our friends better. Like Snowfro was one of my first friends in the Punks Discord. He was one of the moderators. At the time, he was selling a bunch of zombies around the time Trill was trying to get me to buy a zombie. And it was because he was trying to fund art blocks. He was selling zombies, I think, for like 20 or 30 ETH.
It's crazy.
And at the time, ETH wasn't $1,000.
No.
But he needed the money to get it off the ground. And he claimed something like 20-something of the zombies anyway.
Oh, my God.
So
Legend.
there's 80-some zombies. And Snowfro, at the most, had like 20-plus of them. And he realized, like, he can't hold 25% of this third rarest punk type. Like, that just doesn't help grow the high end. So, I mean, and selling them to fund art blocks is just like going full circle in his journey. He claimed all those punks, held them for 3 years, taught himself how to code during that time,
so crazy.
and then sold the punks because he was inspired by Larva Labs to do gen art, and then fucking has made the biggest, most successful gen art platform we have today.
Yeah.
And it's just like he's done it from a gracious, kind, caring, communal aspect where...
I mean, I've never seen anybody give back quietly to a community as much as that guy. Like, really. Like, people don't even know.
Yeah.
He's so quiet about it.
The way that he paused the Squiggle mint, because we were all being degenerates, and after another project minted out, the only project that we could mint was Squiggles, and we're like, fuck it, we're minting these out today. And then he's like, no, I don't want them to like mint out so quick, because he thought they would last a year. And we're like, at the end of January, like, nope, we're fucking minting these out, baby, $35. And then he paused it, and the way that he has slowly and thoughtfully distributed them, like a perfect example, not only of all the charitable things like Amani's Jumpstart Mint, but the way that the Venus over Manhattan thing was done was it gave so much value to collectors. Yeah. Like, we were able to have another chance to mint a Squiggle, knowing everything we know now at the price of a floor Squiggle.
It's crazy.
It's like a call option on getting something rare.
Yeah.
Like, he could have Dutch auctioned all those
and
mints
made
probably got 12 to 15 plus ETH apiece, but he did it for the community.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like the Mount Rushmore for me is him, Sam and Fiwo. I think those are like my top. Like, if I had to like take a big sort of like, okay, here are the next 3 Netflix series they're going to have 10 years from now about like, what we're doing right now. Those 3 always stand out. And I'll get into Sam in a minute, but one night, one of my favorite nights ever was me and Dave and Eric, and we were at this dive bar in the city. It was like 3 a.m, and he turned to us that night. I'll never forget this. And he said, I think Squiggle's price is too high. Like, remember?
Was this after our dinner at NFT NYC a few years ago?
It might have been. And
I know the 3 of you went out and drank till late at night.
I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like,
the alien.
Yeah, alien. He's like, I think the price is like. He's like, I don't want it to be that high. Like, I don't. And, at first I didn't understand what the hell he was talking about. Then I realized, I'm like, wait, no. I like, this is who he is. He wants everybody to, partake in the Nike swoosh of NFTs, or as our good friend, what's her name? Who said that it was the heartbeat of? It was like a heartbeat of the NFT space. Who said that to us? I don't remember.
I don't know.
Anyways, we'll have to cut that out. But like, just really amazing stuff. And again, like people like that to me are special. Like, that's when you talk to someone like Sam Spratt, right? And what he's doing with like Skulls of Lucy. I'm sorry you don't have one, but Dave and I do. And being on his council that's coming up. And
you want to hold mine?
That's what we should do. We should like lend them out.
Put it in the Mega's Oracle.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
With the super rare pass.
Super rare pass that you're a part of. That's right. Like,
that's right, guys.
But just talking to somebody like Eric and Sam and Fiwo, and I know we're very close and friendly with them. But there's something to say that there's just their visions of how they see the world and what especially with this world that we're in, and what they see the future to be like. It's different. They understand, they can conceptualize sort of everything that we're doing now and what's going to happen later on. I remember when we bid and we spent like $160,000 on paint drops. Like, I think Anonymous X is like one above us, right? And people are like, why are you spending so much money on paint drops? You don't even know what it is. I was like, I don't need to know what it is. I'm going to take that bet now for the future because I know FIWO understands what the future looks like. I don't even need to know. I don't need to call him and be like, hey, what's going on? What is paint drops? Just do your thing, you know? And I think Sam is the same type of artist. And I know Dave feels the same way about Sam. And I think Eric is that sort of brilliant also. Mm. What do you think?
I think we're lucky to know all these people.
Well, I'm lucky. I'm lucky to know you.
Oh.
I'm serious. I just want you to know this. I want to say this on air. Okay? Hold on.
God. I'm blushing.
Get sentimental.
Am I close enough?
Yeah, you get a little closer.
Dave, I'm very lucky to know you.
Oh.
I really am. You have changed my life for the good. Mm. I love you like a brother.
Oh, wow.
I just want you to know this. I'm going to read you a poem now that I wrote. Okay?
In your head just now?
Just now. Okay. Dave the Wave, you make me crave everything about myself. Thank you very much for being there with me.
Is that an iambic pentameter?
Yes. Yeah. So... What the hell is that? I don't even know. What is an iambic? What did you just say?
Flow.
What's an iambic pentameter?
It's a certain construction of
words?
Of lyrics in a...
Oh, yeah, it's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
An iambic pentameter. Okay.
Well, I feel the same way. You changed my life.
It was almost a haiku.
Yeah.
It was almost a haiku.
I like, my favorite line was, you make me crave everything about myself. That really...
You see yourself in Dave and crave yourself when you look at him?
That's right. I see
like a Pez dispenser.
Like a Pez dispenser. Like I just want to pull out a piece of Dave and then put it inside.
You'd like to cut right here. And then all the sugar.
That's what each artist has a certain thing for me. So Dave, I would feel like I want to take a piece out of him and put it in me.
Okay.
Sam Spratt, I want him to eat me.
Yeah. What do you want FIWO to do? Yeah.
Oh, that would be. You know what? I know exactly what I want FIWO to do. Yeah, I want him to skin me and then use my skin as a canvas.
I think we got to end it there. I don't know.
Right? Do you see what I'm saying?
Do we ask what they're looking forward to in 2023, or we just end?
We could.
He's going to be like, 2023, I'm looking forward to being cannibalized.
And turn into a lampshade in FIWO world.
Yeah, all right. So we have like 10 minutes between podcasts here.
Yeah.
I think it's a good question to kind of go out on. What this year in just life, your work, crypto, are you like really looking forward to?
Oh, you're not going to go?
I have to think about it. I don't know.
We're the guests, I think.
I think
let's just be the guests.
Yeah. I mean,
I will go too.
Okay. There's a lot I'm excited for. I think the thing I'm most excited for is to scale and build ALLSHIPS into the vision that we have. And Benny's a huge part of that. And the rest of my team is a huge part of that. And I want to defend the ground that we've secured for artists so far, and I want to use the platform to help decouple artists from systems that I think don't serve them as well as we can. So I'm really excited about that. Like our dining club, our retreats, our brand partnerships, our editorial products. I'm just very, very excited to go all in on that. And we have a lot of interesting stuff coming in that department, so I'm excited.
Yeah. While you were saying that, I just thought of what I would have JN do. I would want him to actually take my beard and put it on his beard instead.
Like interwoven
in his beard. So it would be like my beard and his beard. Yeah.
So like
Avatar.
You live on.
So I'm like living on through his beard.
Then what happens to you?
I
grow a new beard.
Yeah, no,
I just shaved creature in a basement somewhere.
Yeah, they just leave me in like the Animus basement somewhere. Like I don't know where it is. What am I looking forward to this year?
Grafting your beard to jam.
Besides grafting my beard, okay, I think I have it. I'm ready. I think it's watching artists like yourself and a lot of other friends that I have grow. I think there's actually two things, and I think that's really important. See, I so many artists that I'm close with, and they have all these plans like coming up this year, and that's really exciting to me. I want to see this ecosystem expand, and I really do care very much about what we're doing here as like a renaissance, and like and what these artists are building, what these creators are building, and to see people grow. Like I talk to Ed Balloon, and And like, you know, he's always telling me what he's building this year. Like, that's exciting, seeing what you're doing at JN. And I mean, I could go on and on. But, you know, everybody, like, I just talking to Joe Pease, and he's like, I want to build this year. Like, that's so fucking cool. And, you know, I'm not building with them, but I feel like even though I'm not building with them, I'm part of the story because I'm, you know, I own the art or I'm friends with them. And I think that's super exciting because I think what we're about to build here, I really do believe is going to be sort of the next great, you know, art and the great sort of communities that we're going to build. And that's really exciting for me. And I think the other thing is I'm realizing I have to be a little bit more, I think I have to have a little bit more, you know, like a little bit more self-confidence and consciousness, like of understanding that I do give and that it's okay for me to, you know, either say no or you know, things like that. I tend to probably not value myself as much as I should, and then therefore I give over to a lot of people, I think, and I think that that's something that I have to start kind of working on. Not to get too emotional or vulnerable here, but no, you know, it's just been something I've been thinking about a lot, especially like talking to you and Sam and sort of people like, you know, Maria, like kind of pushing me like, no, it's okay to, you know, have more self-value in what you're doing. So, and I've been really excited about the stuff we did last year, but I think the things that we're about to do as a community, I think people should hold on to their hats because it's just going to be amazing.
Hold on to their headbands.
Hold on to your headbands.
Yeah, especially you hold on to your hats.
Yeah.
Apparently we're losing hats.
Dude, my hat, I got into the Uber with the hat. I know I did. And then I did fall asleep at one point. So I have this theory, and I asked the guy, I was like, I didn't ask when he took my hat, but I'm like feeling like he took my hat while I fell asleep in the Uber. Is that
There's just no way.
There's no way.
I don't think that's what happened at all.
No.
I refuse to believe your Uber driver would like risk his job.
He's like, I can't wait till this motherfucker falls asleep.
Right?
That
I'm
hat.
stealing his little golf cap.
Okay, first of all, my hats are amazing. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with what I'm wearing right now, but like, it was a nice hat. So I feel like, first of all, actually, it's one of my favorite hats. It's the Jen Stark hat.
Oh, that's important. You need that.
Yeah. So like, I know.
I think it's at your house, bro.
Like I left my house thinking I took it, and then I just left it at my house.
That sounds 100% way more likely.
I don't know. This guy probably saw. He's like, "Yo, that's a Jen Stark hat."
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, he probably recognized it immediately.
Dude, Jen Stark's recognizable.
Yeah, because we're not early anymore.
I mean, the guy only spoke French, so
he wanted to put it back in the vortex.
That's exactly what it was. We just drove right through the vortex of it. Jen Stark's amazing, by the way.
Shout out, Jen. She's dropping a.
Since Benny shared a poem, I think I'm gonna do. Can I share a closing?
Yeah, let's.
I was just about to say that. Let's end it with a rap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll cold out on it.
I'm gonna try to get it first take.
I'm gonna give you a nice.
Should I give you a beat?
No, definitely not.
Here we go. Okay.
Yep.
Here's your camera.
So I'm gonna look into the camera.
Look into the camera and let it bang it out.
All right. So she called and asked me, "How you doing, love?" I said, "I'm maintaining. You know, I've been feeling low, but you don't grow if it ain't raining. When I was young, I should have said it more, because a metaphor is better for explaining what I'm headed for. Talking cheap, talk is costly. Speak softly, but let it roar." Told her storm clouds are the norm now. See people working to the bone to build up buildings that are torn down. Politics are silent on violence to keep the peace. We go to war now. It's thoughts like these that open clouds and let it pour down. She said, "Don't be so cold. It's the summer, man. It's warm now. Don't get so fired up. You're just tired and you're worn down." I said, "I know. I'm just speaking as I think. Rain runs off my umbrella as I walk to get a drink."